I wasn't aware that words could hold so much. I didn't know a sentence could be so full.
Greetings and welcome to the We Read Books podcast. Hooray!
Woo!
It's a podcast where we read books and then we talk about them for our own entertainment and hopefully for yours.
Hopefully. Yay.
If so, 5 stars, please. Thank you so much.
That's right. 5 stars.
And
Do you like it or not?
Yeah. Preferably, you like it, but if not and you still want to give us 5 stars, rockin'.
Not gonna tell you no.
But that is Mad.
And that's Whit.
And we're the,
We're the crew.
we're the crew.
2-man crew. Is that a song? Or a musical group?
The 2-man crew. If not, copyright, TM, I don't know. Patent.
Band name, called it. We have some socials. We are at We Read Books Pod on Instagram and also on TikTok, so pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Our email is wereadbookspod23@gmail, so you can send us an email if you wish.
We would like you to. I don't think
Yeah.
we've gotten any yet, but
I don't think so. We get a lot of emails from TikTok, though.
thanks for the notifications, TikTok, but I'm going to need you to step aside so that our listeners can talk to us.
That's right. We don't need 5 emails a day from TikTok. It's just not needed.
No.
We are talking about Where the Crawdads Sing today.
Yeah. I was actually pretty excited to talk about this one today.
It's an interesting book, for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. It's written by Delia Owens, published on August 14th, 2018. Day of recording is August the 3rd, so
How do we keep doing this?
I know.
There's always like a correlated date that's like sort of close.
I know. Like last week, in recording time, we released our Harry Potter episode on the 30th, and then July 31st is Harry's birthday in the novels, and subsequently it's J.K. Rowling's birthday.
Oh, right. Well, happy birthday all around.
Yeah.
Fictional, non-fictional, July 31st. Whoop, whoop.
I realized that whenever I, scheduled the episode, I was like, oh, shit. It's coming out on July 30th.
Nice.
Wild.
Noise.
Happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say.
Yes. Oh, sweet Bob Ross.
I love Bob Ross.
He would have painted a scene from this book. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had he been into the swampy thing.
Yeah.
He could have done a good job.
He could have nailed it. He was more of a mountain fella.
Yes.
Being from the Pacific Northwest, but
right.
I think he was from the Pacific Northwest.
I truly don't know, but I just find him to be delightful.
I feel like he's from Oregon, but that could be wrong. He seems like
I
he's
would
from
believe
Oregon.
it. If you told me that, I'd go, yep.
He totally is. He's from somewhere.
Right. He's from somewhere. But speaking of popular things, this book has sold, as of April 2023, has sold 18 million copies and has been made into a feature film. It also spent 150 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list.
That's pretty impressive.
Way to go, Delia.
Those are some solid numbers.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if she has to ever write a book again. I don't know. The money probably doesn't last that long, but hopefully she's sitting pretty good.
She's older. I think she's in her late 60s.
That's right. And she's already had a pretty accomplished life up until this point.
Right. She's a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think the back of my book has all kinds of little discussion topics and different things like that. And I feel like I saw somewhere that it said that she had co-authored some nonfiction books.
Yeah.
So
whenever I was like getting this information, I pretty sure I read in some of her bio that she in the 90s had written some like scientific books.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean,
and as we discussed on Discovery of Witches, we like some science, pushed
Yeah.
into our fiction.
yeah, I like
Or mixed in, not pushed
Yeah.
in. Mixed in.
yeah, the academia makes it, I don't know, interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because, I mean, she was a scientist, so I am assuming that all of the science stuff that's in there is probably, like, facts.
At least
probably
I
factual.
would assume it would be semi-accurate,
Yeah.
if not thoroughly researched.
Yeah.
You'd hope.
It's just, like, knowledge she just has.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you're learning a little something while you're reading your fiction.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably not going to read nonfiction, let's be honest.
No.
No, it's not that fun.
It's not a never for me, but it also is not a I'm going to do it by choice.
Right.
On a whim.
Yeah.
It'll be like I'm trying to learn something.
Yeah, it has to be like a specific goal in my heart
Yes.
in order to like actually read some nonfiction. I don't know.
Couldn't tell you the last time I read nonfiction.
The last time I read nonfiction was a biography on Kurt Cobain, which I feel like doesn't count. Because I love Kurt Cobain, and it's like
Biographies are nonfiction?
speculation on his murder, so,
Yeah.
his potential murder.
Right. What you shared with me about that, you swayed me.
I have the book over there, Love and Death.
See, I might be persuaded.
That's a pretty persuasive book.
It's right there. I could read a nonfiction. It's within reach.
Yeah, so that's the last nonfiction I read.
Yeah.
And I think what I read prior to that, I think I read a biography on Sylvia Plath, like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it.
Hey, no shade to the nonfiction readers out there. Mm-hmm. It's just not our jam.
Yeah. I actually heard someone, it might have been a YouTuber, talk about how she doesn't read fiction because it makes her fall asleep. I was like,
I will say
backwards for me.
Yeah, I will say when I read physical books, like if it's after a certain time, it will make me drowsy, and I hate it because I'm sitting there thinking, no, I want to be reading this. Brain, wake up. And it's not that I'm bored. I just, do words lull my brain to sleep? I have no idea.
Yeah. I think it really depends, because there are some times when I can literally just read into the wee hours. Mm-hmm. And other times I'm just not really interested in
just not ready.
finishing. And I'm just like, I'd rather be asleep.
Right. But this one was a good one. It I didn't find any moments where I was like, oh, come on. Never got bored.
Yeah. I think the structure of the book kept it interesting. Mm-hmm. And the setting was interesting, especially it's very different from like where we are.
Right.
So, which is sometimes I don't always go for a contemporary fiction like this one, because it feels like I'm just reading a story about like the real world I live in, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not what I gravitate towards generally.
Right.
But it felt like its own world.
Yeah.
Basically.
I agree.
Felt removed from my day-to-day.
Exactly. Yeah. It wasn't about a woman that like goes into an office and, blah, blah, blah.
Miss me with all of that.
Right.
So, a short plot synopsis. Where the Crawdads Sing is a coming-of-age story about a young girl named Kaya Clark who was raised by the marshlands of the Southeast in the 1950s. When the town Hotshot is found dead and inexplicably linked to Kaya, the Marsh Girl is the prime suspect in his murder.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so this is like a coming-of-age / thriller.
Yeah. I love me a good thriller / mystery.
You do. I like a thriller now and then.
Yeah. It dawned on me that even the Harry Potter books, they're mysteries. There's always something to kind of be discovered or solved by the end.
Yeah, and there's always a little misdirection in there.
Yes.
Especially the early three,
Yeah.
the first three.
Yeah. So as much as I love fantasy, it just proves to me more and more that what I really love is
a mystery.
Is a mystery.
You like some...
I mean, I love fantasy, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But yeah, if that fantasy also then has some mystery,
yeah.
Sign me up.
I like thrillers and mysteries. I just have to find the right ones.
Right.
Because very often I can predict the twist and the ending from, like, the beginning, and then I'm just not, like, on the edge of my seat reading it.
Right.
So then it's kind of like, oh, yeah, that was
okay, I saw it coming.
Yeah, you know.
Sometimes the journey is just as exciting even if you kind of know the end. Or if I can predict the end but still something slightly happens that was not what I expected, it's satisfying enough for me.
Yeah.
Like the mystery of this one, I feel like you could kind of guess, but I liked the bits of possible misdirection or whatever, and then just like the little sparkle extra reveal too. It was just like, oh, okay, that was nice, that was satisfying.
Yeah. It felt like the way that it ends wasn't necessarily like a twist.
Right.
Because you kind of knew.
Right.
And she wasn't trying to like necessarily hide it, really. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. This one was like different. But like when I read The Silent Patient, it wasn't immediate. It wasn't like when we read Verity where like I was like, immediately I knew.
She's faking it.
That was so obvious. Even before the little weird things started happening, I was like, this I already know. But The Silent Patient, it took me about maybe halfway through to figure it out. So it took me a little longer.
Nice. This is one I have not read. I will have to look into this.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I mean, I like read it and it was enjoyable while I was reading it, but I wouldn't reread it.
Gotcha. Good to know.
Yeah. I also read that guy wrote another book called The Maidens. Mm-hmm. The Silent Patient is better.
Okay. Also good to know. All right.
Anyway.
Well, let's tell you about some of the characters in this book. As we said, it's about a girl named Kaya. She's also known as the Marsh Girl. Gotta love a sweet nickname. She has, mostly we see her brother Jody. She does have other siblings. I know there's Mandy and Murph and one other maybe?
Another girl. There are two.
But I can't remember her name.
Yeah, she's got two sisters and two brothers.
And I guess I could have looked it up before we started recording, but we never meet her, so Yeah. And then we've got Ma, which I can't remember her name either. Do we ever... I'm sure we learn her name. But anyway, there's Ma, and then there's Pa. His name is Jackson Clark. Then we have Tate, who is a friend of Kaya's and a friend of Jody's.
Yeah.
We have Jumpin' and Mabel, who Jumpin' owns the gas place plus like little service store. Yeah. And then his wife's name is Mabel. And then we have Chase Andrews. He's you're going to find out in about 5 minutes. He's our victim of the book. And then we have Sheriff Ed and Deputy Joe.
The investigators. Not
fan of them.
I had to keep reminding myself that this murder happens in 1969.
Yeah.
And I had to keep reminding myself, like, okay, this is 1969.
Right.
I can't be, like, evaluating their policing skills through current lens.
That's true.
Because at first I was like, what the fuck? These guys are dumb. Why are they so dumb?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I do think the time frame that it's set in also helps with, like you had said earlier, that kind of bubble,
removal.
Like feeling like, it being in a different time, a time that we did not live in.
Yeah.
So it kind of added to that as well. But let's just dive right in and start with the major plot points.
So first, if you haven't read this book, it's written in 2 different timelines. So the beginning of each chapter, she tells you what year you're in. So the prologue starts in 1969, which is the present. And then we jump back and forth between 1969 and basically the years of Kaya's life, starting in 1952 when she's 6.
And then eventually our timelines
Meet.
But
Yes.
yeah. I liked it. I liked that it did that. I feel like it kind of kept things interesting. It just kind of kept, and even some of the investigation chapters were short, but they just kind of kept like piquing your interest and reminding you to kind of keep your eye out for different things kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the 2 timelines, the way that the chapters are, the order in which they occur, like you know from the prologue that Chase Andrews has been found dead.
Yes.
And so all of the 1969 chapters are like them investigating, and so you already know kind of early on that Kaya has some link to Chase Andrews. And so when you go back and you're reading the like 50s, early 60s chapters, you're waiting for the link between her and Chase to like come up. So it's like sets up your anticipation.
Right, because it's not immediate.
Right. A lot happens before she ever really meets him.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And building the anticipation it's a really clever way to do that.
Yeah.
Writing
Yeah.
it this way.
Yeah. I liked it. But so it starts off, as we said, in our present time, which is October 30th, 1969, when 2 boys find a body of a man, as we said, named Chase Andrews, in the swamp next to an abandoned fire tower. And it doesn't really give us much more than that, just they find the body.
Yeah. That's the prologue.
And then we go back in time to the summer of 1952. Kaya is 6 years old at this time. We jump right to her life in the midst of quite the moment. She's watching her mother walk away from their house, basically, and they mention it quite a few times, her fake alligator skin shoes. She has a suitcase in hand, and she's out of here. She's leaving their lives.
Yeah. It's interesting that, because Kaya, when she's watching her walk away, it's like said that when Ma has to go to the store or whatever, she leaves that direction. And the only reason she knew that this time was different was obviously she had the alligator skin shoes on, her suitcase, but also she didn't turn at the end of the lane and wave.
Right.
She just left.
Right.
So Kaya, like, knew that she wasn't coming back. Even though Jody's like, she'll be back. Kaya, pretty much, she knew.
Yeah.
On
Jody
some level.
trying to be a good brother, older brother, trying to kind of protect her feelings, I guess. He's like, she'll be back. And maybe he was in a little bit of denial himself.
Because he's like 7 years older than her. So he's 13.
Yeah.
That's pretty old.
Yeah.
I mean, relative to being 6.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oof.
He's seen a lot more go on in the household and experienced more than Kaya has. But not to say that Kaya's completely unaware, but yeah. So she kind of holds a little hope because of Jody telling her that, but pretty much I think deep down she knows she's not coming back.
Yeah.
Which is awful.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough way to start off.
Yeah, yes.
A young child watching their mom just leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we don't know why,
Yeah, at this point you don't really know why.
Right.
But
you figure it out pretty quick, but...
Yeah. And you probably, on some level might just assume.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah. But it doesn't take long after Ma leaves for Kaya's siblings to all kind of one by one just disappear and leave. Mm-hmm. There is a description of Kaya remembering the bruises on her mom's face the day she left and witnessing Pa abuse her siblings. So she kind of like, she never like faults them.
No, yeah.
For leaving.
Right.
But
you could say she's a little bit mature for her age, which I would think witnessing those things would easily do to you.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, and Jody, he's the last one of her siblings to leave. So the three oldest ones leave, and Jody's the last one.
Yeah.
He, like, gets hit by Pa, and he's kind of like, I can't, like, stay here.
Right.
Gotta go.
Right. Before he goes, he's more of a caretaker to Kaya than their dad.
Yeah.
For sure. And he tries to play with her to distract her from, you know, how kind of hard things are in their family. But yeah, eventually he just can't take it, and he's getting out of there.
Yep. And before he leaves, he tells Kaya to hide from Pa and from the other people. Presumably this is social workers who would come looking for her. And Jody leaves, and then Pa gets most of Ma's things and just burns them in a big fire.
Right, which is devastating to Kaya.
Yeah.
Because even though her Ma is gone, at least she kind of had things to remember her by, and now she doesn't even have that.
Yeah. I think she manages to save, like, a few small things, but...
Yeah.
But most of her stuff is just gone. Because there's at least one dress that she has and she puts on later or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, and it's sad because when she's younger, she just notices kind of a stain, and then when she gets older, she realizes that stain must be, like, dripped blood from their dad hitting her, which is...
just awful.
So sad.
Oh, yeah.
But so being the last one, she's kind of like the caretaker of the household, just between her and her dad. And she tries to avoid him pretty much. Like Jody said, you know, she'll do things around the house and whatnot. But if he's awake, she's trying to be out of sight, out of mind. But Pa gets a disability payment. It's $1 per week. And she calls that Monday money. And she uses it to get food and other supplies for the house. She walks about 4 miles into Barkley Cove to the store, which that store is full of people just gawking and judging.
Yeah. The town nearest the town Barkley Cove, everyone in it is, like, really prejudiced against the people who live in the marsh. And so they're like super uppity. Like, I don't know if they're living these big house lives or something, but they sure act like they do. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think all of them are, because I think, like, the woman who runs the Five and Dime store, she doesn't have any, like, a ton of money. I think she lives in a loft above the store or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really all that uppity, but... We don't learn a ton about the town other than just how the townspeople treat Kaya. Yeah. We learn more about the marshland than anything else. Yeah, she pretty much avoids town most of the time. Yeah. And we're not restricted strictly to Kaya's viewpoint. A couple times we'll get out of her viewpoint and hear conversations with other characters, but it's very rare. Yeah. Super rare. And at some point, Kaya turns 7 in that story before we switch back to a quote-unquote present chapter. Yeah. So the next jump is back to 1969. So we go back to the scene, and the 2 boys who found Chase's body go and get the sheriff, Ed Jackson, and the town doctor, Vern Murphy. And they notice that there are no footprints in the area of the crime scene and think this is odd. But at this point, they're not sure if this is an accidental death or a murder. Yep. I think they're leaning one way. Just, I don't know if they're bored or what, but... yeah. They push pretty hard. It doesn't take much to sway them. No, not at all. And then, so then we flash back to 1952, and a woman arrives at the shack. Her name is Mrs. Culpepper. She's a truant officer who's come to take Kaya to school. She kind of
entices her with telling her that the school serves chicken pie for lunch. And, you know, Kaya, who is pretty much surviving on grits. I mean, because, you know, $1 obviously now gets you nowhere.
You can't even get a pack of gum.
But back then, it could get you, like, grits and maybe, you know, a couple other things or something, just kind of depending. But she, you know, she's been eating grits that she's had to learn to cook herself. So, a hot chicken pot pie.
Come on.
So, yeah. So, she reluctantly decides to go to school. And she does note that she wants to learn what comes after 29, which I thought was sad and also kind of cute. Like,
yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah. Her thought processes at the beginning are very, like, childlike. I mean, she's 7 at this point, so obviously, but it just, the what comes after 29 really, it was like, that is a child.
Yes, yeah. Like, although she can understand emotional things a little bit beyond her age maturity, she still has some, like, childlikeness to her, which I think is good. It's not like she's writing a 7-year-old to be like a 27-year-old woman. You know, she's actually a child. But of course, it's quite the traumatizing experience. You know, the teacher is nice, but the other kids point out, you know, she's not wearing any shoes and they're not very nice to her. And the teacher asks her, you know, honey, can you spell dog? And in front of the entire class, like, I would mess up in front of a group of people, but she says G-O-D instead of D-O-G, and the kids make fun of her, and she ends up just leaving and never going back. Yeah. Which, if that's your first experience, just getting completely ridiculed, I don't know what would make you want to go back. Yeah. But
and there's no one in her life that's going to make her.
Or stand up for her, or teach her to persevere beyond that uncomfortable feeling. It's just sort of like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that sucked, so I'm done over this. Got my chicken pie.
Right.
Now I'm going home.
Right. Thank you, no thank you.
Yeah, that was really sad. I've always had, like, a serious reaction whenever I see, like, people getting made fun of. It's like it's a real, true feeling that I have to this day.
Mm-hmm. Even on, like, television shows and movies and stuff, especially when an adult who is nearby, or there's no adults nearby and no one, like, stands in and does anything, I get so fired up. I'm like, somebody do something. What on earth?
Yeah. It's like a real reaction that makes me, like, afraid to actually have a child of my own, because if my child was getting made fun of by another kid, I might challenge their parent to a physical fight.
Slap them with a glove. Like, I challenge you to a duel.
Here. Your little asshole kid just made fun of my kid, so we're squaring up. Right. Get your fisticuffs going, bud. Right. Because this is for real skis.
Right. And then I will emotionally chop you in half.
Yeah. It would be so hard. Yeah. That would probably be one of the harder aspects of being a parent, I think.
Right. Knowing, like, the line where to step in and when to help guide your child to stand up for themselves. And that would be so incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if your kid's little, like 7 years old, the other kids around them are acting that way because their parents didn't teach them that that's not okay. Right. So you can't, like, chastise this child that's not yours. Right. Because if I saw someone else chastising my child, I would also be equally pissed. Right. It's like when someone, like, gets onto your dog at the dog park. Bitch. Don't. Right. That's my baby. Right. I always have a firm grasp on what my dogs are doing. Exactly. So you are unnecessarily interjecting. Right. I need you to step away. Right. Yeah, I would not take kindly to being on either side of this. No. But also I would teach my child, like, you don't make fun of someone. Right. Right. So in the event that I ever had one, they would not be making fun of their peers.
No, and if they did get some wild hair and decided to act a fool, I will correct you.
Yeah, you don't make fun of others. Right. Literally.
I saw this really great video that actually, like, illustrated it really well. This mom was talking to her 2 daughters, and she says, okay, look at this piece of paper. It's smooth and clean. She's like, okay, now say something mean to me. And they're like, you're stupid. And she crumples a corner. You're ugly. And crumples another corner. And they kind of go until the whole piece of paper is crumpled. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, okay, now apologize or whatever. You know, if I smooth out this paper, even if you apologize, is this paper back to the way that it was before? And it's like, no, that's what hurting other people does.
Yeah.
You can try to make it better, but it can't ever be completely undone.
Right.
And I just thought that was such a cool illustration. I wish I remembered the woman's Instagram.
Yeah.
I just thought that was such a perfect illustration. And
yeah.
poor Kaya, it just becomes this little crumpled piece of paper.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart.
I know. Poor girl. So after the harrowing scene at school, we go back to 1969 with Sheriff Ed and Deputy Joe, and they're investigating Chase's death. So at this point, they're kind of grappling with murder, accident. Mm-hmm. And even though Chase was married, he was notorious for having affairs. So Ed and Joe speculate that he could have been killed by a jealous husband.
Mm-hmm. And Chase wasn't just like a, kind of nobody in town. Like, he was well known. Wasn't he like a sports star?
Yeah. They kept saying it over again. And, like, at this point, he's well into his 20s. Mm-hmm. So he's been out of the high school football arena for some time now.
Yeah.
So I kept thinking to myself, like, he played high school football.
Yeah.
I know that this is, like, a different time, and, like, now, once you're out of high school, like, high school shit just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. I do think it's sort of a small-town mentality also.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's just usually when you see small towns depicted, this is a stereotypical thing that they do.
The football star.
The football star is always the football star, no matter what he goes on to do or not do or, does badly. He's always the star football player, kind of thing. So
it's definitely a stereotype of like the small town, which I grew up in a really small town, went to a small high school, and football was a big deal. Still is a big deal in my hometown, but
the glory doesn't go beyond high school anymore.
No, whenever people graduate, like even in that small, like really tiny town, I think some of the guys that I graduated with who now have kids like coach their teams and stuff, which is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But, I don't think of any of the guys that I graduated with as like, oh yeah, the football star.
Right.
That seems so silly to even say.
Right. But they make a point to tell us that Chase is well known, and then he's good looking and gets around with the ladies. So could be a scorned lover, could be a husband. There's definitely a pool of possible suspects.
Yeah, they're wildly speculating.
Yes. And they get wilder.
No evidence for their speculation. Well, what if...
Right. Sherlock Holmes would be ashamed of their investigative ability.
Yeah. This mockery going on.
But we'll get back to that. Ridiculousness.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, could have been a jealous husband. And then we jump back to 1952.
Yeah.
And Paul leaves for a few days. Doesn't he like to gamble a little bit? And just sometimes he just kind of disappears. So Kaya's on her own per usual, and she ends up taking out her dad's boat for the first time by herself.
Yeah, this is the first time she's driving the boat.
Right. She's been in the boat with family before, but really she's not allowed to be doing this, but she kind of just, she's on her own, and I think she wants to kind of learn and maybe be able to impress her dad a little bit. But so she gets out in the boat, and then she runs into a boy named Tate Walker, who is actually an old friend of Jody's. So when Kaya sees him, she recognizes him, but she kind of keeps going, but then eventually she gets lost in all the channels of the marshes. Luckily, she kind of finds him, or he comes finds her. Either way, he helps her find her way back to her house. And little, not reignition, I don't know, ignition, whatever, little bit of recognition for possible future friendship.
Yeah.
So.
And this is after this scene where he leads her back to her own channel. This is whenever we get a little bit of perspective from Tate.
Yes, yeah.
He goes back to help his dad. His dad's name is Scupper, and he's a fisherman. And so he's helping his dad, and then we learn that his sister and mother were killed in a car accident sometime before. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say exactly like how long ago it was, but so we get a little bit of that for Tate.
And I don't remember at what point he reveals it to her, to Kaya, but later he kind of talks more about the accident and his feelings about it, like as their friendship deepens. Yeah,
I think it's several years after this.
Yeah. Because, they're not friends. It's just sort of like, oh, that kid helped me.
She just, like, recognized him as, like, Jody's friend.
Yeah. And then when Pa returns, Kaya asks him to take her fishing, and he agrees, and he starts to teach her to fish, and they catch some for food, and then it kind of sparks this nice bonding between them, and they have some good times there for at least a good short while where, he's drinking less, he's spending time with her, she's cooking for him. I mean, I think she always cooked for him, but kind of like, here's your food, bye.
Yeah.
But now they're actually spending like some quality time, and he's kinder to her, and she's just finally feeling like some connection with him.
Yeah, like,
which is nice.
Yeah, this is my dad. This is the only family I have left. Mm-hmm. And
things are kind of good. I'm seeing a different side to him than the others got to see. So it's nice for a fleeting moment.
Oh, very short moment. So then we're jumping back to 1969 with Ed and Joe, and they get some lab reports back that say a big old bunch of nothing. There's no evidence, or they refer to it as negative data, and they take this to how they got here was infuriating. So
no evidence equals
no evidence. So they take this to mean that someone murdered Chase and covered it up by wiping away or cleaning up the scene.
The only way that there could be no evidence of a murder is that someone did the murder and then wiped the scene clean.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there would be evidence. What?
That's just the wildest leap.
Yeah. Now, I will say, of course, you would think that there would be, like, handprints of Chase climbing up to this thing. Because it's basically just, like, a ladder and then, like, a little landing. It's all made out of metal, and it has little, I don't know. Grates. And the grates can be opened, where the ladder is, and also just at random points, which who designed this thing? I have no idea. And its purpose, I'm not 100% certain of, because what do they call it? A fireman?
A fire tower?
Fire tower. Let us know. It's not something I Googled. But, I mean, I can see it in my head. I just don't know its function at this point and why it has all the opening grates. But, so I can see where they're like, oh, well, there's no handprints going up the ladder. Surely someone wiped them away. But also, they live in a marsh where it's wet, it's damp. Admittedly, it's like, like the footprints. It's like the tide comes and goes. Like, that would easily wash that away. I can only imagine all the moisture in the air would also kind of corrupt any possible prints you would have. I don't know. But yes, they leap from no evidence means there should be evidence.
Which is funny because now in an investigation, no evidence does not equal evidence. Mm-hmm. You can't make something out of nothing.
Right.
You can't prove something with nothing.
Right. Like I kind of mentioned the Sherlock Holmes before. It's like they're making facts suit their theories rather than making theories that match the facts.
Yeah.
They're doing it incorrectly.
Yeah. Which I think how a lot of old investigations were, to be fair.
Following your gut.
Yeah, that gut instinct.
Which I'm sure usually is good, but some people's guts are rotten.
And has led to a number of wrongful convictions that are now being overturned and people are losing 20, 30 years of their lives in prison because of investigations like this.
Yeah.
I mean, don't even get me started.
Not to say that this one doesn't have grounds for their suspicions
Yeah.
in reality, but they have no proof of that.
Yeah.
So,
A suspicion is a suspicion.
Right.
And, of course, they're hearing gossip and all of these other things at this point. This is when they first start to hear the rumors that Chase had maybe had some involvement with Kaya and that woman who lives in the marsh. So they already have a prejudice against her.
right.
Anyway.
But as we established, he's a popular dude. Everybody
Yeah.
knows him. Like, so
Yeah.
why is it a oh, he talked to that girl? Oh, he knew that girl? Okay. He also, you said, was having relations with a couple other ladies as well.
Yeah,
Why are we
he's
not
He's a total
gossiping
Lothario.
about these?
Yeah.
She's the easiest target,
She's the
obviously.
easiest target. Yeah. They
Because
don't
no one cares
understand
about her reputation.
Yeah, no one cares about her. No one understands her. So, yeah. So, I mean, I understand this is a small town. There are rumors. Maybe you investigate a rumor a little bit. You look into all leads. But when you don't have evidence, you don't automatically jump to, this is a crime.
Right.
And someone cleaned up a murder scene.
Yeah.
It's just a little too much right away.
I agree. So after jumping to conclusions, we jump back to 1953. And Kaya is taking the boat to go get some gas with her pa. They go to, I keep forgetting, did they ever say the name of it?
It's just, it's the wharf.
The
It's
wharf.
just Jumpin's Wharf.
Yeah, Jumpin's Wharf. So that's where we meet Jumpin for the first time. And Jumpin is not his name. He owns the place, but he's called Jumpin because he apparently jumps up every time someone's boat comes in. He's very eager to help his customers. Very, I don't know. He just seems like the sweetest character, and I love Jumpin a ton.
Yeah, I think he's a really good character. When I was researching for this episode, there is a little bit of controversy around his name. Because he is a black man. And the name Jumpin has ties back to mid-1800s minstrel shows. There was one character named Jumpin' Jim Crow, which is not good.
No.
Oh, it's so bad. So the guy who did this minstrel show was a white guy who played in blackface this character named Jumpin' Jim Crow. And obviously Jim Crow, we all know that term because post-Civil War, all of the segregation laws are referred to as Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
So,
And I did not know that tie when reading it. But yeah, you would think someone who is well researched in other things.
this was a bad miss.
Yeah. I think she was just trying to go for something memorable or something that like sticks in your head or like gives his character some like levity or something, to show that he's just like a go-getting nice guy. But that
I
that
know.
was a miss. But as a character, I really enjoy Jumpin.
I like his character. I like a lot.
I actually would have loved to get to know him and Mabel both just a bit more. I know
agree.
they're side characters, but I know that we learn later, I think that they have kids of their own and stuff. I just would have liked to see just a few more scenes of them where they're not talking about Kaya.
Yeah, and
so,
not just like on the wharf at his store.
Yeah. I would have liked just a little bit more with them, but the scenes that we do get are great, and I love Jumpin', and like I said earlier, Mabel is his wife. But so we meet Jumpin', they go to get some gas and some supplies, and then after that, Pa takes Kaya to eat dinner at the local restaurant. Most diners are pretty rude and point out that they are barefoot. They're quote-unquote marsh people, and, I mean, they don't dress fancy. They don't put on shoes. They're hanging out in the marsh and doing their thing, so they're not worried about
looking a certain way.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a spectacle for everyone else in town. But
Yeah.
It almost feels like they're the only ones, though, but I guess maybe they treat other people like that as well. But sometimes they treat it as if they're a singularity and the only people that are this way.
I get the impression there are never any other marsh people mentioned or referred to, but I do get the sense that there are other people that live in the marsh.
Right.
Like Kaya and her family live.
But you don't hear or don't see any depictions of discrimination against them like they do Kaya and her family. And maybe it's just because that's not the scope of our story.
Yeah, and that's true. It could be. I don't know, but yeah.
But there's a little girl that Kaya talks to, and the mother grabs her and is like, don't talk to that dirty little girl. Which is awful.
So awful.
Especially because she's a pastor's wife.
I know.
Listen, that's not how a pastor's wife should behave. She should be sweet and kind and
concerned if she sees like a clearly young girl who doesn't have shoes.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
Like,
how about be kind to her and just make sure she's okay rather than judging her and be like, get away from my daughter, you dirty, filthy little whatever.
I really took because Owens takes the time to let you know that this woman is the pastor's wife.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a critique on maybe like the Southern Christian general population. Like these are maybe like Sunday Christians, but they don't actually live their lives.
The high, righteous, and mighty that don't live out the love that the Bible talks about.
Yeah, the Bible quoters who won't help a 7-year-old girl who has no shoes.
Right. Yeah.
A little hypocritical of you, my lady.
Terrible.
Oof, not a good look.
Not a good look. So they have their little dinner, and then
I think I think she has chicken pie.
Does she? I don't remember.
I don't remember. She had a lot of food.
Yeah. I don't know if Pa really notices the people being jerks or not. I can't remember.
He probably doesn't care.
But at the same time, he's probably like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We're having dinner, okay.
Yeah, we're paying just like everyone else.
Right. But then the next day, everything changes because we get a letter from Ma. Kaya, does she leave it out for him? Like, because I think she sees it first.
Yeah.
But she can't read, so she, it's left out. Pa reads it and then immediately is furious. He burns the letter. Kaya is completely distraught. She even, bless her heart, saves the ashes from the burned letter. It's so sad.
It's so sad.
And then after that, Kaya doesn't, like I said, she doesn't know how to read, so she doesn't know what it says. He does not tell her. Pa kind of goes back to his old ways, drinking again, never takes her fishing again. I don't think we hear it at this point, but yeah, it's like things are never the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty awful and sad.
Yeah.
Just from one reminder from his past, his wife who left him, and he's willing to throw it all away.
Yeah, this is what we call unstable. Wildly unstable.
Emotionally neglectful, emotionally abusive.
Yes, exactly. Now we're back in 1969. Ed and Joe go research. They do another search.
Right.
Of the scene, but they still come up with nothing.
No evidence.
Listen, guys, there's not to be found.
Right.
It's not there.
Stamp this an accident and move on with your life.
You must be so bored. So bored that you're just like, let's go have a poke around out there again.
Right.
I know we didn't find anything, but
that's fine being thorough, but then when you come up with nothing again and still you persist, their guts must be telling them something, but I don't know if it's, like I said, good guts or rotten guts, but whatever.
They're keeping at it, though.
Yeah.
They're keeping at it, so. Yeah. That's what's happening in the present. But we can go back to 1956. So we've had a bit of a time jump since the restaurant scene and the letter receiving. So we're about 3 years later, and Kaya's 10 now. So in these 3 years, it's kind of been like pause in and out. He's there for a couple days. He's gone for a few weeks, and then he comes back eventually. But when she's 10, he just never comes back again.
Yep.
He's just gone for good.
No note, no word, nothing.
Nothing.
Just gone.
And so she's just alone.
And now she doesn't have any money at all.
Yep. No Monday money, and she has no idea how she's going to get food or anything else she needs. So I don't know how many days go by that she, like, doesn't have supplies.
I would imagine she gets to the end of her grits bag and then is like, okay, I gotta
figure this out.
Right.
So she wakes up one morning, like, really early, before the dawn, and goes to the beach and digs for mussels because she remembers that Jumpin' will buy mussels. So she digs mussels and she takes them to Jumpin' and she sells them to him. She has, like, 2 bags. And she sells them to him for gas and supplies, basically.
And she lies from this point on until it's not needed anymore. But she said, people are asking where her pa's at. And she's like, oh, he's at home. Oh, he's off, whatever, So
he's around somewhere.
So she's not going around saying, like, I'm on my own. She's just picking herself up by her bootstraps. I mean, she's already kind of had to be resourceful anyway, but not support herself like this. But yeah, she's still trying to live under the guise that she is not alone. But it's pretty clear she's at least trying to get some extra money to help.
And Jumpin', he's pretty astute. He knows.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, basically, at this first time, I think she buys grits and a candle.
Yeah, because they don't have electricity or running water, right, at that shack?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because her dad was always the one who bought the kerosene for the lamps.
Yeah.
And so that's why she buys the candle, because she doesn't have enough for oil or whatever.
Yep. But yeah, she supports herself by digging mussels and then eventually starts smoking fish and selling it to Jumpin'. But I like that, and it might seem not harsh, but I mean, he tells her, now if someone gets here before you with mussels and I buy them from them, that's all. I'm not going to buy any more that day. So you got to be the first one here. He's willing to help her, but he also is trying to teach her at the same time, like, hey, I don't know. I just like that he did that. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll lie to this little girl. And because even though him and Mabel have this store, they have a family that they have to support as well. So I don't think they have the extra means to buy these mussels from her that they don't need. So, and I do believe he's trying to kind of like help teach her to, like, hey, I can't always give you money, or I don't know, just trying to kind of help teach her how to support herself, or like, so, and that's when she switches from mussels to the smoked fish. She's trying to figure out any way to be, either first or different and get something for them. I mean, obviously Mabel and Jumpin' help her out in different ways, but I just kind of like that he's trying to sort of teach her at the same time. But yeah, the minute she leaves, and I think it's sweet, I think Mabel sneaks a piece of candy in her bag, but like, I'm pretty sure immediately after she leaves, Mabel's like, yeah, I think that girl's dad's gone. And Jumpin's like, yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah. And at some point, Mabel does like a collection and gets like boxes of clothes and shoes and stuff for Kaya, which is crazy because the rest of the town, regardless of whether or not Pa's there, they know. Yeah. They see her and notice her, that she's probably wearing the same clothes and she doesn't have shoes and all this stuff. And none of those churches or anyone does anything to help her.
But Mabel and Mabel's church, they donate.
They donate to her.
Yeah. But Jumpin', knowing that Kaya is her father's daughter, knows that she's proud. So they're pretty sure she's not going to just take handouts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when it's like, okay, well, you keep bringing me those fish, which...
They don't love. They don't...
No.
I think they probably just throw it away.
Probably. Or they try and, like, take it and put it into food at their own... into stew or something at their own house, or if people don't buy them. But especially at the beginning, they're not...
Yeah.
They're not great, okay?
Yeah.
But to... obviously help her, and these things are free donated anyway, so to kind of make her feel like she's earning it, they tell her, you bring the fish, we'll give you these things that people don't want anymore anyway, or it's not like you have to give us fish for these things. It was just, I think at first they kind of made it that way so she didn't feel like she was just getting handouts. But eventually she, I think, is willing to take those things because she knows that she works hard and she knows she needs it.
It's very, whenever she gets the box of stuff from Maple, she's like thinking to herself that this is the best stuff she's ever had. She's never had clothes that nice, or shoes that nice.
I just love that they care so much that, like I said, they're trying to instill wisdom in her, but also just being so incredibly kind. Like Mabel and Jumpin' don't have to be the ones to help this girl, but they are the ones. They're the only ones. And they're just so sweet. And I love their love for each other and, like, their interactions with each other. Like, I would have loved to see more, like I said earlier.
I agree.
I like their characters a lot.
I agree. They're really good characters. So we jump forward from here again to 1960.
Yeah. I think things just kind of
stay.
She does the muscle thing, the fish thing, gets random hand-me-downs when they're available.
Yeah.
And then she's 14.
Which I said this, like, at the end whenever I put my, like, little rating at the bottom or whatever. It was really hard for me to get over the idea that a 10-year-old is living by themselves in a shack in the woods. And actually, like, not starving to death.
Right. I will say she did kind of have to start fending for herself, or, like, learning how to do things at a young age. Like, I kind of thought of it as sort of like a Matilda thing. Like, no one took care of her, so she kind of had to teach herself to, like, cook and stuff. But there's actually a thing in the back of the book where the author sort of addresses that. With, like, someone asked her a question, and I saw on the synopsis the outline, I saw that you had written that, and so when I saw this, I thought it was interesting. The author says, I was careful to write her survival in a realistic and believable way. To me, the story had to be feasible. I purposely kept Pa around until Kaya was 10, an age at which she was capable of gathering food and firewood, cooking, and boating in the marsh and sea. And of course, by then, she could run or hide from anyone, so by the time she was truly alone, it was quite possible for her to survive on her own abilities. Basically, like, she believed that a 10-year-old...
Yeah. Which...
She felt that was believable, but I see where you feel that it's not.
I 100% do not believe that a 10-year-old would survive on their own.
Yeah.
Not just, like... I mean, if you've grown up hunting and fishing and gathering in that sort of quote-unquote primitive way, maybe you could practically feed yourself potentially. Yeah. But I just think that a 10-year-old is a little child still. Yeah. And not having, like, being alone in a house.
Right.
For years.
Yeah. Doesn't know, could possibly not know hygiene, how to care for wounds, all manner of things. So I can see that.
I mean,
oh gosh, yeah. If she got a cold,
it's just not. It has no realm of plausibility in my brain. I mean, you just have to suspend your disbelief to get through the rest of the story. Yeah. If Pa had left when she was 15, okay. I could accept that. I think at 15 you could live by yourself. People actually have to do that. Yeah. In cities, no less, which is probably harder, to be honest. But just not buying it. Especially, like, there's nothing that's gonna happen no natural elements that are going to happen. I don't know.
I just kind of had to tell myself that, like, Mabel would find creative ways to, I don't know, help her along or something.
Yeah.
Like, if she noticed something that was like, eh.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't something that whenever you read enough fantasy and you just have to tell yourself it's magic.
Right.
That's kind of the mentality. I was just like, I have to.
I mean,
this
I guess
is
in, like,
the story I'm in. So.
Right. Because, like, in every book, it's sort of like, I mean, nobody ever gets sick. Nobody ever, it's like, so that, not nobody ever, but in certain stories, like, characters just live.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have to assume they, even in the worst of circumstances, had decent luck and just happened to survive.
Yeah. That's essentially where my mind had to go.
Yeah.
And when you're used to reading books just in general, you don't have to have everything be completely plausible in order to get through the story.
Yeah.
It was just something that I was like, I'm not really buying this
Right.
for reality.
Gotcha.
But in the story, I mean, it was the writer's choice. This is where she wanted it to go, so this is where we're going.
Right. Now it's 1960. Kaya is 14, and while she's fishing, she sees a boy in a boat. She hides, but later she finds a feather, the eyebrow of a great blue heron, sticking out of a stump. So, and then the next day, she finds a white tail feather from a rare tropical bird in the stump. And the next, a turkey feather. So, someone's leaving her little gifts.
Little feathers.
I think before this, she has a love and a respect for the nature around her. But I think this really sparks something in her, and she starts saving and collecting and all that stuff. But so someone's reaching out to her.
Yeah. One night after, like, this is just in the same, like, section as the feather finding. She's in her house, and a group of teenage boys come to her door. And she's, like, really scared. And she hides. But they don't come inside. They're just doing kind of like an, ooh, I touched the Marsh girl's house kind of thing.
I remember reading there was, like, a part where she said, like, if they shook the door hard enough, they could
get in
if they wanted to.
Right.
Because we didn't say before, but she sleeps on a mattress that's on, like, a enclosed front porch. So she's not even, like, deep into the house. She is right there.
Yeah. Does it ever tell us how many rooms are in the shack?
I'm sure at some point it does, but I would imagine that
It's 2.
it gotta be.
I just assumed 2.
Yeah. And, some siblings had to have been, sharing the room, and then also the living room, and then, mattress on the porch.
Yeah.
And then the parents obviously had a room.
Yeah.
But I would say 2 at most, probably. It's small, I believe. But these kids come up on a dare and kind of touch the door or whatever, and running away saying, they survived the Marsh girl, calling her the missing link, Wolf girl, the girl who couldn't spell dog. That one made me real sad. I mean, they're all sad, but that one especially.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, we're in 1969 again.
Yep.
Ed and Joe receive another report indicating that Chase died from a severed spine from the fall. So he fell out of the grate, hit his head, and his spine.
Yeah.
So the back of him is trashed.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And the report also included red wool fibers that were found on his jacket. So these are the only clues that exist, because essentially the autopsy showing his cause of death is not a clue as to whether or not, I mean, that was expected injuries from a fall of that height.
Right.
Essentially.
Just confirming, yep, that's how he died. He fell. Nothing happened to him other than the fall.
Right.
And then we find red fibers.
Yeah.
So, okay, the only foreign thing that they have found so far is red fibers. And now they have maybe evidence, but a fiber can get on you
At any point. Like,
I mean, I'm afraid the wind's going to blow my hair into a crime scene one day. I mean,
I know. This is this is always a concern when you have, like, a lot of hair and it sheds off.
Yeah.
I'm leaving hairs all over the place. Like, so many places just have my hair everywhere.
Right. So, but now they actually have something semi-foreign.
Yeah.
Now they can look and see if this fiber belongs to Chase or someone, but I'm curious how many someone's wardrobes they check for this red fiber. I guarantee you it's one.
Yeah. I don't think they investigate anyone else, actually.
At least if they do, it's not told to us.
Right. And I feel like that would be pertinent information.
Right. Which I will note that when they were in the diner hearing rumors, one of them did say, let's leave. We don't want to be influenced by town gossip. But
Right.
I feel like it's already done.
It's,
in their brains. Whether
Yeah.
they're willing to admit it or not.
I agree. It's the truth. It's the truth. Yeah. And we're going to jump back to 1960.
Mm-hmm.
And Kaya decides to leave a feather in the stump in return for the mysterious feather lever. And she goes back to her shack. She's cleaning, and she finds some of Ma's old makeup. So she's looking in that. She gives herself a little haircut, like a trim. It's not like a
right.
haircut.
Right.
She has really long hair, obviously. She puts on lipstick. She finds a dried up bottle of nail polish. And this kind of triggers a memory she has of her mom and sisters and her having, like, an outing.
Yeah, a fun, good day.
Yeah.
Which was a nice memory until it wasn't. You know,
Yeah.
The end of the story is a bit sad. I forget what turns it, but, you know, they're having a good time, and then Pa comes home
Yeah.
in a pissy mood and just kind of jacks it all up.
Yeah.
Per usual.
As per usual.
But it is interesting how because I think there's a couple times where, like, different memories kind of spring to her mind as she's doing things, which is a nice way to kind of give us more backstory.
Yeah. And it still shows that even, you know, at this point, she's 14. They've been gone for 8 years.
Gosh.
And Pa's been gone for 4.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really, he was so wishy-washy in and out for the preceding years, too. So it's a wonder she has any real connection to her life prior. I mean, because if you think about being 6 years old, what do you really, like, remember vividly about your life?
Right. Maybe at 14 you can still kind of remember things, but I do like that it's more realistic that it's triggered by something rather than just something she can recall easily.
Yeah.
But yeah,
sure.
At 35, memories from when I was 6.
Yeah.
I'm sure the only quote unquote, I mean, I'm sure there are some memories in there, but some of them are probably helped along from, like, family videos that I've seen, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, once you put enough distance between yourself and any given memory, really, at that point, you have to wonder, am I remembering this because I remember it, or am I remembering this because I have photos of it and other people to talk about this with?
Right.
Am I remembering the event, or am I remembering?
Right. And Gaia doesn't have pictures and things to go off of, you know, she really does kind of get these flashes of memories from little things like this, like the nail polish and whatnot.
So the next day, after she has the house cleaning and the lipstick, she finds a night heron feather in the stump, and next to it is a milk carton with some vegetable seeds, a spare spark plug for her boat, and a note that she can't read.
Yeah.
So she leaves a tundra swan tail feather in return, and the following day, Tate is waiting for her.
Ooh.
He approaches her carefully and offers to teach her how to read.
I think that's very sweet. He's clearly noticed her and watched her from afar, so
yeah.
I like that he approaches her carefully. And then, once he realizes that she can't read, it's like, hey, okay, why don't I teach you?
Yeah, exactly. And another, like, little scene that happens in this group of events is Kaya is walking to jump into Mabel's. She's made them some raspberry jam, and it's really as a thank you for them, like, being kind to her and helping her. And she sees two boys throwing rocks at Jumpin'. So she hits one of them with her bag and the other one just runs away.
Yep.
This
Little
is like
sissies.
a really sad scene.
It is a sad scene.
I mean, obviously this is 1960, so, and then we're in the South. Mm-hmm. So obviously the racial segregation and discrimination is rampant.
Yes.
So.
And Jumpin', I mean, he has no choice. He just keeps walking.
He just keeps walking.
Can't do or say anything.
Yeah, it would be the repercussions for him in that scenario where he to try to defend himself would be so much worse.
Yes, but I do like that Kaya is outraged by that behavior, and it's like, okay, Jumpin' is out of sight now. Here come these turds. I'ma thwap them.
Yeah. I just always, it's so, the discomfort that you feel reading, like, a scene like this, it's really intense. Mm-hmm. And I wrote my master's thesis on slave narratives, so I spent a lot of time, like, reading a lot of, like, literature from slave times and for enslaved people who got themselves out into the free North. It's very harrowing to read those stories. Highly recommend, obviously. I feel like if you live in America, you should probably read them.
Yeah.
It's part of the history that you don't learn in high school, really. I mean, you're not really reading slave narratives in high school, which sucks because as uncomfortable as it is to read, that shit happened.
Right.
So...
the more you know about bad things that happen, then the less likely you are doomed to repeat them. You can learn from the mistakes of our past to be better for the future.
Yeah. And reading, like, the actual accounts of people like Frederick Douglass, he is one of the slave narratives that I based my research on. And, like, William Wells Brown, he wrote several novels, but also a slave narrative. And they're, like, these are people who lived through it. So it's just, you're getting much more of the true story reading. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a firsthand account of that kind of what they had to go through.
Yeah.
But it's discomfort maximum.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I think there are several scenes in this book that are purposefully uncomfortable but don't push the envelope to a grotesque uncomfortability or description.
Yeah.
But I think they are strategically placed to really drive home the lives that these people live.
Yeah. None of it was gratuitous, which is good because then that's just not, this isn't the place for that sort of story.
Yeah. And when I say these people, I mean the people that live in this community, whether it be Kaya or Jumpin' or whoever is telling kind of an uncomfortable moment in the book, mostly Kaya, but I think that although uncomfortable, they're done in a well-written way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad she didn't feel the need to write any further description.
Yeah.
Like, we know that pre-Civil Rights Act was not a good time for people who were not white. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody should know that, and she didn't need any more than what's in here to kind of let you in on where we are, especially in the South.
Yeah.
So I think some writers might go a little too far in trying to get that message across, but I don't think it's necessary, especially because it doesn't always feel the most comfortable coming from someone who's not in that community as well.
Right.
So I think she treated it with respect and care.
Right. Agreed.
In this moment, for sure. And later, other scenes.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So after that, we cut to the time period where Tate is teaching Kaya the alphabet, and he brings her a Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. It's for her to read and just, I don't know.
Yeah. It kind of...
For her to read.
Yeah. It's like for practice.
Yeah, thank you. That was what I was trying. I was like, I couldn't find for practice. But the book teaches her to read, but also teaches her many things about the natural world, especially the one that she is living in. And so at night, during the day, Tate is teaching her the alphabet and how to read, and at night she practices by reading this book.
Yeah. We also get a scene between Jumpin' and Kaya one day while she's at the wharf getting gas, and he warns her that there are men from social services looking for her, likely to put her in foster care. So obviously she dodges them and starts spending time in this like rundown, dilapidated cabin deep in the marsh. She does take Tate there at one point, and they start calling it the reading cabin.
Because they pretty much spend the whole summer there at that
Yeah.
point. Or, maybe not the whole summer, but pretty much.
Yeah.
And then Tate starts his senior year of high school, and then he starts bringing Kaya discarded textbooks so she can learn math, biology, poetry, just basically anything. He just brings her whatever. He doesn't assume she will like or dislike any subject. He's just like, hey, here's some more textbooks.
Yeah.
Learn a new thing.
Yeah. Essentially, it's like the basic subjects that he's learning through high school. He's just like, you need to learn this. You need to learn this.
Right. So he learns it, and then he teaches it to her.
Yeah. Yep. And then we get a scene where Mabel meets her at the wharf, gives her a dress, and also her first bra.
Because, as we said, she's a teenager,
she's 14.
Developing.
Yeah. So, we're getting a few cues now about Kaya actually, like, not being a child anymore.
Right. Hitting puberty.
So, not too long after Mabel gives her the bra, which she's pretty discreet about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
It's not made a big deal of. It's just in there with the dress.
Right.
And Kaya just obviously knows what this is.
Yeah.
But then we get this scene where Tate finds Kaya sitting on the beach, and she's clutching her stomach. And she doesn't understand what's going on. She thinks she's sick.
Yeah.
Because she's having, like, cramps. But Tate kind of knows.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her, like, this is her period.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day she goes to get Mabel, and Mabel, like, explains the details and what to do and all of that.
Right.
So this was a weird scene to read.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, this is one of those scenes that I was talking about that's another one that's kind of uncomfortable, but I think it had a purpose. I think it being slightly uncomfortable just drove home how uncomfortable that can be.
Yeah.
Even in normal circumstances, it can be uncomfortable, but it's even more uncomfortable being a young woman being taught about it by
a boy
your age.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, like, that caught me whenever I got to this part. I was just like, I understand what's going on right here. I know that someone has to tell her what's going on, but a part of me was just like, I don't love that it was a boy who tells her.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
But there's no one else around. Tate's the only person there. And of course she goes to get Mabel, but if Tate hadn't have been there, and she gets her period and then notices blood, what is she going to think? Is she going to think she's literally dying?
I would.
I mean, those symptoms, if you are not aware of what's going on, you would be like, this is not correct. This is unnatural.
Right.
Is what you
Death
think.
has come for me.
This is a weird way to go out, but I guess it's happening. So I don't know that you can get around him telling her, but I still didn't love it.
Yeah. I just kind of took it as it's sort of a way to emphasize the uncomfortableness of that stage. It just made it that much more
it's
uncomfy.
But it does this is obviously all of the interaction with Tate before this. You could see that he's thoughtful and kind.
Yeah. And he's a few years older than her. I don't know that we said that.
Yeah,
but he's a
he's
handful of years older than
like
her.
4 years.
So
Yeah.
he, like we said, he approaches her gently when he first talks to her. And so he is very much watching and reading her as a person.
Yeah.
Through all of their interactions. So.
And he is, like, as respectful as possible at this point. Like, he's trying to make sure that she knows what's going on so she's not freaked out, but he's not being weird about it.
Yeah. It never says that they have a brother-sister relationship, which I'm glad for, but he is very much, like...
Sort of
caring.
Caretaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ish.
Like, she takes care of herself, but in the things that she cannot... do/teach herself, he fills that role. Yeah. So, but I think what is interesting or also kind of sweet is that when you think of like a girl going through puberty, getting your first bra, getting your period, that's something you do with your mom. Right.
And Mabel is the one that helps her through those stages.
Yeah.
So Mabel really is like her maternal figure.
Absolutely.
For like mostly all of her life, essentially.
Absolutely.
So, Mabel.
Oh, Mabel.
So sweet.
Eventually, after that, Kaya invites Tate inside her shack, and that's where he really gets to see her collection of nature through all the reading she's done and the collecting that the feathers and everything sort of sparked. She's got this whole collection of rocks and feathers and shells and all that stuff, and he's super impressed by all of it. And later, while catching some leaves, Tate kisses Kaya, and they decide that they're boyfriend-girlfriend.
It's very precious.
It is precious. It's sort of like the kiss happens, and then is she like, so we're boyfriend-girlfriend now?
Yeah, she's like, I guess I'm your girlfriend now, huh? And he's like, guess so.
What kind of books did you give her, Tate?
It's a very...
Kissing equals boyfriend-girlfriend?
Yeah. It's very innocent.
It is.
And precious.
It is. It's very sweet.
So, we're still in 1960, and Kate, that's their relationship name is Kate.
Yeah, there you go.
Tate and Kaya. So, Tate tries to make Kaya's 15th birthday really special, and so he takes her on his boat to the secluded bay. He gets her a store-bought cake, which she's never had before.
Yeah.
And gives her presents, which I don't think she's ever had birthday presents. Maybe...
Likely not.
Maybe before when her mom was still there, but probably not anything like...
Because even when her mom was there, they were still struggling.
Yeah.
Life was not easy for them, even when she had both parents. They still had very minimal money, and their mom found creative ways to do things.
Yeah.
So
he gives her presents. I think he gives her like a magnifying glass and a few other things, maybe some paints or something for this birthday. So he like tries to make it really special for her.
Yeah, which is very sweet.
Which is very sweet. And later we get another scene with Tate and his dad. And his dad, they're at the restaurant, they're eating dinner, and Tate's dad's basically like, hey, don't get this girl pregnant.
Right. I know you're hanging out with this girl. I'm going to need you to be smart about it.
Yeah.
You're about to graduate high school.
You're going to college.
Yeah. Don't get this girl pregnant.
He does tell him, like, I'm really proud of you. You know what you want. You're going to college, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to Chapel Hill, which is a very good college. Mm-hmm. So...
Scupper is a good man. I really like Scupper.
He is.
He, just like anyone, maybe has some, I wouldn't even say prejudices, but he has some things in his mind, just like everyone else in the town. But he's not super judgy, like, hey, you need to stay away from that girl. He's just like, hey, be careful.
Yeah. And, he probably would say the same thing no matter who Tate is dating, if he was dating anyone. But there are, like, somehow stories about Kaya, assumptions about her that she's promiscuous, even though she's literally not at all.
Right.
But, and Tate essentially tells his dad that. He's like, that is not even close to accurate. None of those
Right.
rumors are true. Kaya isn't like that. I'm teaching her to read.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. So.
Right. Because they have not slept together. They kiss.
No.
That's it.
Yeah. They have kissed innocently.
Yeah. Right. But I did want to say Scupper. Scupper has these cool, I think, kind of cool, like 3 things that he defines are characteristics of a man, which are he cries freely, he feels poetry and opera in his heart, and he does whatever it takes to defend a woman. I think that those are very, like, wholesome, sweet,
very wholesome
ideas of what a man is, which, again, I think shows that he has some different thought processes than the rest of the people in that town. Not all of them, obviously, but the general
idea.
mind that you hear from that town. So.
Yeah, because the rest of the town pretty much holds up, like, Chase Andrews as the epitome of a man, basically.
Right. Football star,
womanizer,
blah,
rich,
blah.
from a rich family.
Yeah. So I just, that little bit just kind of endeared me to Scupper.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's really precious.
He's cool. He's a good dad.
He's a good dad. Yeah. Aw. Okay, so now we're at Christmas, 1960. And Tate, like, spends Christmas with his dad and does, like, family stuff, but he makes sure that he gives Kaya a Christmas gift. And it's a dictionary with, like, natural things in the pages.
Collected things. Yeah, in the pages.
And she is upset that she doesn't have anything to give him, but later she gives him some cardinal feathers.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet.
Yes. I didn't think about it until this moment, but I don't know that Tate does or doesn't invite her to spend Christmas with his family, but I also don't know that Kaya would have wanted that or gone at this juncture.
Right.
But because later, you know, there's someone else in her life that she's like, why can't I meet your family? Why can't I meet your family? But it's not really a thing with Tate, at least not at this point.
Yeah,
I think she's just enjoying having someone she can trust. I don't think she's really thinking about a future or getting out and bonding with other people. I think she's happy with having Tate as a companion right now.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it ever comes up at this point.
I don't think he would have refused if she had asked. I just think he figures she's not interested. But then we jump from Christmas to spring, and they are exploring and end up kind of getting a little flirty and then a little physical. But they stop short of anything actually happening. And Tate tells her how he really feels about her, that he loves her and cares about her. So and again, a nice scene. It almost goes to a next level, but then he sort of stops himself and is like, hey, use your brain. Yeah. She's younger than you.
And 4 years of age difference is not that much, except when one of you is 19 and one of you is 15.
And one of you has been secluded and you're the only person that they know. Like, his brain was like, hey, we can't do this.
Yeah, it felt icky.
Yeah. But I'm glad that he realized that and was like, ooh.
Yeah.
We gotta pump the brakes.
Yeah. Well, and he obviously is he really considerate person. Right. And he clearly cares about Kaya and her well-being.
Yeah.
And I think probably at this point he also realizes he's about to graduate, he's about to go to college.
Right.
So it would be extra wrong for him to sleep with her here and then, like, leave.
Right. And it's a big juxtaposition from something that we see later where it's like he doesn't say, oh, I love you, and then try to be physical with her. It's like he stops them from being physical and is like, because I love you, I'm going to stop this.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said, a big swap from another character and how they treat her. So
yeah, he treats Kaya with a lot of care,
which is why things that are about to transpire shocked and hurt me so deeply.
I know
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
Yep. So at the end of the year is coming up, and Tate tells Kaya that he's going to college. And he's leaving sooner than the end of summer because he's got a summer job at a lab. And he tells her, I'm leaving, but I'm going to come back, and I'll be back to visit on the 4th of July.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess summer's not ending. It's like the spring is ending, the school year's ending.
Yes.
And I guess he's going away to college early.
Yeah, so he's like working for the summer in the lab.
Yeah, yeah. Says he'll be back around 4th of July.
So then we jump back to 1969, around a week after the body of Chase had been discovered. And this is when Ed and Joe hear the rumor that Chase had been having an affair with the woman in the marsh for nearly 4 years.
Before it was just like, oh, I heard he, you know, associated with the Marsh girl. But now it's like, oh, no. Now they're saying it's been an affair, and it's been for 4 years.
Yes. And Chase's mother, Patty Love, has let them know that she needs to come by and tell them something about the shell necklace that Chase had always worn. And it was made for him by Kaya.
What?
Scoozy?
And again, like we said at this point, Chase and Kaya have not had any really interactions.
Yeah.
At this point. I think at one point earlier in the story, like maybe she sees him like ride by on a bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's a little, I don't know that he's a turd, but he's not, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, he's just a
little
butthead little kid.
Yeah.
But that's it. They have not interacted yet, so things are jumping back and forth. But then we go back to 1961. It's July 4th weekend, and Kaya is waiting for Tate, but he never comes.
Yeah. She waits for him for a while, too. She waits for him that whole weekend.
Yeah.
But I think even a couple of weeks after as well. She goes to the beach every day and waits for him.
I think she tries to give him the benefit of the doubt, but, I mean, it doesn't take her super long to realize he's not coming.
Yeah.
And I was so heartbroken and angry at this part of the book. I was like, are you absolutely flipping serious? You are the one person who knows how deeply this is going to hurt her. They've been close enough that he knows everything about her. He knows that her family has abandoned her. And he does the chicken thing and, just doesn't talk to her and just doesn't come back.
Yep.
Her heartbreak in that moment was so heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. And it lasts for a really long time because it says that it's about a month or so that she doesn't go to town or go out into the marsh or anything. Yeah. She's just in her house. But even after she, after that month, and she starts going back out into the marsh and resumes collecting her specimens and painting and stuff, she still doesn't engage with other people. And it describes like Jumpin' noticing the change in her. And this lasts for years that she's not super communicative when she goes in to like get her supplies and stuff.
Yeah. Is it years?
I think so. Because I think the next jump we make is 4 years to 1965, and it's the day that she sees Chase, and when she goes to Jumpin's next, he notices like that she's different. She's more chipper and talkative. Yeah. And that's 4 years.
Yeah. Gosh.
So, oof.
She does have a moment of realization where she was like, I'm not gonna waste my life away like this over someone who's left me. Yeah. I'm done doing that. Yeah. And then she kind of reignites her love of collecting and doing her investigation thing in the marsh, so.
Yeah, and with Tate gone, her supply of books has run out, so she goes to the library, gets a library card, and starts like checking out books for herself and continuing to teach herself all this stuff, all of the stuff about the marsh, the scientific names, all of the. She just studies. Yeah. She starts doing college. Yeah. Getting college textbooks from the library.
Yeah. But it's still interesting because, like, later they'll say that there's not a lot of text about their specific area. So, I mean, even the knowledge she's getting is, like, general
Yeah.
marsh stuff. So the research that she's doing from her collecting still informs, like, her specific area.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So, yeah. So when after she realizes Tate's gone, then we jump to 1965. She's 19, and she's on Point Beach one day and sees a group of people. She obviously hides behind a tree and watches them, and one of these people is Chase Andrews. And he happens to be near her tree. He sees her and, like, makes eye contact with her, and he's young, he's handsome, and of course she develops a crush on him. She's
Hey, cute boy, looking back at me.
And he obviously notices her because she's also very pretty.
The book does say that she just has a natural beauty.
Yeah, she's striking.
Yeah, as she matures, obviously.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And after they catch each other's gaze while she's at Jump-Ins one day for supplies, Chase taps Kaya on the shoulder and invites her to a picnic. I kind of thought that was, like, super out of the blue. Like, hey, they see each other, and then he's just like, hey, you want to have a picnic with me?
Yeah.
And she's like, sure.
Wow.
I don't know why, but that just struck me as really strange, and just, I don't know.
It gave me the impression, in the fact that he saw her hiding behind the tree, that maybe he had noticed her before and kind of knew that she is like shy and a little skittish
and alone.
Yeah. And that she goes to Jump-In's wharf on a regular basis.
Right.
So
I guess it could have been a thought he had for a while, but it just made me like, what's your motive? You know? I don't know.
And I think that probably she also has that element of, like, intrigue and mystery.
Yeah. Yes.
For Chase.
She's the marsh girl. Everyone has these stories about her.
She has a legend behind her.
Yeah.
So she's not only very striking, but she's also got a sort of mystique about her that he probably finds
appealing,
really intoxicating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So they go on the picnic. They get in Chase's boat, and they go kind of to a deserted beach. Don't go to a deserted beach with someone you don't know. I'm just
Please don't.
saying that right now. They eat, and he plays the harmonica, and they find a rare scalloped shell, and he gives it to her. Right? Doesn't he pick it up, or
I think so. Yeah,
he picks
it up
and he hands it to her. He's like, you like this sort of thing, don't you?
Yeah.
So, and then Chase ends up kissing her, and he gets a little pushy.
Yeah.
And so she pushes him and rolls away from him, and then runs to her boat and leaves, or runs through the forest. Either way, she
gets out of there.
There's no conversation. It's just like, nope, don't like that, out of here.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks go by, and Chase finds her, apologizes to her, and convinces her to go with him to the fire tower. This is the first time Kaya has seen the marsh from this high up, so, he's, again, showing her something new. And it's kind of this a new appreciation of the beauty of the marsh that she already it's just expanding on that. And she actually took that shell that they found and put it on a piece of, like, leather rope or whatever, and she made it into a necklace, and she gives it to him. And Chase tells her that he wants to get to know her more just as a person, and that he won't make any more advances unless she wants him to.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying, I want you, but I'll let you decide how that goes.
Yeah.
Coming off like a real gentleman.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard not to let certain feelings come through.
I know.
Too soon.
I know. It's very hard. So we're back in 1969, and Patty Love is at the station talking to Ed and Joe, and tells them about the necklace, that Kaya gave it to Chase and he never took it off, and that they were involved for a while, but she wasn't sure how long they were involved. And she says that she thinks that Kaya killed Chase because he married a woman named Pearl. And so Ed and Joe are like, well, this is enough. We're going to have to at least question her.
Right.
So they go to the shack to talk to Kaya, and obviously she eludes them.
She is a
With ease.
master pro at this point.
Yeah, she is elusive. And these
Yeah.
two knuckleheads are, I mean, of course she outsmarts them.
Yeah. Yeah.
She could have outsmarted them at age 6.
Yep.
Let's be honest. So.
But the way they conduct business, yes.
Come on now.
So we're back to 1965. We're seeing Kaya and Chase get closer. Their relationship develops. And then one day, Kaya sees Tate home from college, and he's working in the marsh, and she watches him, but she doesn't approach him.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, Tate drives his boat to Kaya's to apologize and beg for her forgiveness. He's graduated from... Is he graduated from college at this point?
He's finished his first degree, and now he's working on his doctorate. So.
Right. Yeah, because he plans to finish his PhD in the marsh, and they've, set up a new scientist research lab. They're in the marsh in their town, so he plans to get a job there and finish doing all of his research and stuff. So, yeah, he's like, I was a fool. He just kind of realized, and he sowed some wild oats while at college, but, honestly, he never found anyone that shared his interests the way that Kaya did, never found anyone like Kaya, and no one that he had feelings for like he had for Kaya. And I forgot to mention before, but, when he decided not to come back, he has thoughts like, she couldn't fit in with people at my college. She wouldn't want to fit in. And, he kind of uses those excuses to shy away from her. And again, they just pissed me off. So then, of course, once college is done, and he's just like, yeah, I didn't want any of that I thought I wanted. I just want her. And he realizes it's a big mistake. So he wants her forgiveness. So he's heading to her house, but he sees her and Chase kissing from a distance in Chase's boat. So he stops what he's doing, just turns back, and it's like, nuts.
Yeah.
I messed up.
Yeah.
I think he's a little shocked to see her with Chase Andrews of all people.
I think he is, yeah.
But, yeah.
I don't know. I was sad about Tate, but I did understand his reasoning, because I do.
Yes.
I understood the sentiment of he's going away to college and this is an opportunity, and I mean that's what happens, right? Your high school sweetheart doesn't stay your high school sweetheart when you go to college.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
But he could have told her that and said, I'm going to college. I won't be back for a few years. He could have been honest with her. Even if it would have hurt, I think him abandoning her obviously hurt so much more. And
it was.
He admits
he knows
to himself that he was a coward.
Yeah.
But I just, oof.
I know.
Oof. But no, I get his reasoning, and it's hard to it's easy to forget that he is also a young kid with his own issues and insecurities, and he's gonna mess up. But it's like he was just so kind and wonderful and understanding and knew her so well. It just felt like such a huge betrayal. But it is easy to forget that he's a kid too. So yeah, of course he messed up.
Yeah.
And got a little selfish. So.
Right.
But he realized a little too late at this point,
Yeah.
Kaya's with Chase now.
And, the longer they're together, she starts thinking about what it might be like to marry Chase.
Yeah, but she doesn't mention it to him.
She doesn't ever say anything to him about marriage.
No. I think she just notices how other adult couples behave and knows that that's kind of like the natural progression of things.
Right.
If you're together.
Yes.
You get, the next step eventually is to solidify the togetherness and get married.
Yeah. And she kind of assumes that they are in an exclusive relationship. Obviously, she doesn't spend any time in town. She doesn't talk to people in town. So anything going on in town, she has no idea about.
Right. But yeah, she never mentions marriage to him.
No.
It's just thoughts that she
thinks
has.
about it, but she's not mentioning it to him. But he is... The pressure for her to have sex with him is mounting.
Right. As even though he said, we won't do anything unless you want to.
Right.
But then he starts to do that thing where it's like, I've been patient with you, haven't I? I've, done this and I've done this. It's like...
it's time, Kaya. It's time. But it doesn't
Is
have
it
to
time? Did she tell you it's time? Then it ain't time.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, we know that he's not just dating Kaya.
Right.
He's got girls in town.
Right.
That he is undoubtedly sleeping with.
Right. Right. Which, when he was kind to her, I was always, like, apprehensive. But when understandably, he would say these things that, especially if you were Kaya. But even as a reader, you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's not as bad as I thought he was. Maybe he means it. But then the more the relationship progresses, then you're like, nope, yep, I was right. He is a dirtbag.
Yeah. And there's always that element of, you already know from the very beginning that he's dead.
Right. And that he's a serial dater, womanizer,
so
or whatever.
You already have that in your mind, and so you're just like, the insinuation here is that Kaya has a hand in this death.
Yeah.
So let's walk that back to maybe what could have caused that, if she is involved in his death.
Right. Which
kind of gives you the assumption that all of the niceties are just a pretense.
Exactly.
So.
And time moves on, a little bit. It's 1966, and Chase is talking to Kaya about marriage and kind of different pressures and stuff, and he invites her on an overnight trip to Asheville. And she's uncomfortable with the invitation. I believe you can tell, because she knows that means that they'll be sleeping in the same bed and that there are intentions.
Yeah, she knows what's happening here.
Yeah.
And she does eventually agree to go, because before this he had talked about when they're married. He talked about building her a house. So he
says all the right things.
He says these
quote unquote right things.
Yeah, the right things. And so she's like, this is just what is expected. This is what I have to do, which is very sad. And then it's even worse.
Yeah. Because another one of those uncomfortable moments. But not too uncomfortable, but it is uncomfortable.
It's sad.
Yes. It's very sad.
He takes her to and he's rich. Chase Andrews is from a rich family. The man has money.
Yeah.
And he takes her to an ugly, cheap hotel room, and it doesn't seem like he has any care about her at all.
No romance in mind.
Yeah, there's no romantics happening. He doesn't take her out to dinner. He doesn't do anything. He just takes her to this hotel, and they have sex, and it's painful, because it's the first time she's ever done it, so she has to go through the pain of it. He's not taking any care to try and make it easier for her. He is obviously not caring if she's getting any sort of satisfaction from the act. He just gets his and goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Like a little bitch boy. Nah, dude.
Yeah, I hated this scene.
Everything about it was painful to read.
Yeah.
But it tracks, though, obviously.
And she talks about it in a way. She says that it was a taking, not a sharing or a giving.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
One, what a perfect way to describe it, but two, what a devastating truth. But that right there is the true version of Chase Andrews.
Yeah.
He is not a giver, but a taker and a manipulator.
Yeah. Because, after this, he doesn't ever talk to her about marriage or this house he was going to build her.
Or if he does bring it up, then it's sort of like, yeah, we'll get to that. Or, excuses or delays. Or, you don't really want to meet my family. Even though it's like, well, you said that we're supposed to get married. So, like, don't you want me to meet your family?
Yeah. Because she wants him to take her to, like, the Christmas parties and this and that. And he's just like, nah, you don't want to go to that.
Right. It's interesting because before with Tate, his company was true and genuine, and I don't think she felt she needed more emotional connection beyond him. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in a, dysfunctional way. Like, he was the only thing she needed. It was a satisfying relationship where I feel like with Chase, she's not truly getting care and affection. Yeah. So it's sort of like, well, maybe if I'm part of his, she never says this, but it's just, this is a thought that's occurring to me now. It's like, maybe if I'm part of his family, then I'll belong, then I'll get, more of a loving, satisfying connection.
Yeah. Yeah, because
she does not have that.
No, yeah, she doesn't love Chase, and I think she knows that she doesn't love Chase.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think with Tate, there was genuine connection in it, and there was no need to feel like anything was lacking, whereas obviously something is lacking with Chase, and so she's trying to solidify or deepen some sort of connection because it's just not there.
It's just not there. Yeah. So Chase isn't going to take her to these Christmas parties.
No, excuses galore why she doesn't want to go. They're boring.
Yeah, he just has to get through it. Yeah. So he's gone for like a whole week. He doesn't come to see her, but Tate comes to see her. Mm-hmm. And of course, at first she's pissed, right? Mm-hmm. And she throws rocks at him, which I did think was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so she's mad, but he tells her, I envision him, like, yelling this to her while getting pelted with the rocks.
Right.
Like, he just yells to her that Chase is not a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's dating other girls in town.
Right.
He's not a good guy.
Right. It's sort of like, I was going to leave you alone, but I know the truth and I can't not tell you.
I can't let this go on. And I think I don't think he says this to Kaya, but I think there is, like, a little snip of him from his perspective in town at a Christmas party, and he hears Chase telling his friends about being with Kaya.
Yeah, that he, like, landed the marsh girl.
Yeah, he got her.
Yeah.
What a dog.
Mm-hmm. No, that's insulting to dogs.
Oh, it is insulting to dogs.
What a pile of hot, wet, steaming garbage.
Yeah. Gross. That's just so gross.
He's a pile of vomit.
He's just the worst. So Kaya at this point, she like relents. She's like, all right, I'm not going to throw rocks at you anymore.
Yeah.
We can chat.
Yeah.
And they go inside the shack, and he sees how much progression has happened in her collection, and how, like, they're all labeled and all of her paintings and all of this stuff, and he's, like, so impressed, and he tells her that she should publish her paintings. Mm-hmm. And she lets him take a few of her pieces to show a publisher.
Yeah, because she'll have, like, a description along with the painting or artifact or whatever, so she kind of gives him some samples, or allows him to take some samples to share with the publisher.
Right. So that happens, and then eventually Chase shows back up around New Year's.
Yeah. Does she even talk to him, or is she just...
Yeah. I mean, I think they're, like, status quo still.
Yeah.
She just kind of doesn't do anything with the information from Tate.
Right.
Yeah. They just go back. They're just doing their as usual.
Right, but shit. It's in the back of her mind.
Yeah. So.
And then it's 1969, flash forward. We are at the local bar, and Ed and Joe are talking to a shrimper named Hal Miller. He's telling them how he saw the quote-unquote marsh girl in her boat around 1:45 a.m. on the night that Chase was killed, and that she was going in the direction of the fire tower. And Ed and Joe get a warrant to search Kaya's shack after that. It's like, oh, now we're actually getting quote-unquote evidence to support
Yeah.
our wild claims we've been making up in our heads.
Yep. Yep.
And then we flash back, but as you can tell, the distances are getting shorter and shorter.
And shorter.
So now it's 1967, and we're with Chase and Kaya. Their relationship is, continuing. As Maddie said, same as usual. And then one day she is in town probably to get supplies, and she runs into Chase and his friends in town. He has his arm around a girl. I think it's the girl that Kaya calls Always Wears Pearls. And he removes his arm from Always Wears Pearls' shoulder, and he makes some introductions between Kaya and his friends. But then he continues on and leaves with his friends.
Yep.
Kaya goes into the store, she's saved up some money over time, so that she can do this, but she spends her money on ingredients to make Chase a birthday dinner. She also, is just doing other shopping, but she picks up a newspaper, and when she gets home, she opens the paper and sees that there's an engagement announcement for Chase and Pearl. So, of course, everything that Tate told her and then some is true. Not only is Chase with someone else, he's engaged, which obviously means he's not planning on marrying Kaya.
Right.
So, of course, she cries and hides when she hears his boat.
Yep. Now
that relationship is over.
It's over. And so we flash forward to 1968, and Kaya goes to her mailbox, and in it is her book on shells. So after Tate had submitted samples of her work, Kaya actually signed a contract for multiple books based on her collections and on the Marsh, and she receives a $5,000 advance that she used to make improvements on her shack.
Yeah, she gets running water, and she still, over time, she'll continue to upgrade the shack and stuff, but she still keeps certain things like the wood burning stove and just certain things. Yeah. But yeah, she gets running water. Eventually she'll get electricity and stuff like that. But I like that there are parts of the shack that she leaves alone. She adds on, but doesn't completely decimate it and make something new. She kind of blends the best parts of the shack with new things, and I really like that.
I agree. And at this point, Jumpin tells Kaya that there are developers in the area draining the swamp to build hotels. So she ends up going to the courthouse to see if there is a deed for her land. And turns out her grandfather had the property surveyed, and that he actually owned it. And after she pays back taxes of about $800, she gets the deed in her name and has 310 acres of lagoons, marsh, oak forest, and a long private beach.
Ain't turning that into a hotel. No, sir.
Not today. So Tate comes back to the shack, and Kaya gives him a copy of her book and has inscribed it to the Feather Boy, thank you from the Marsh Girl. And they talk about restarting their friendship, but Kaya is just not ready to forgive or trust him.
Yeah.
So, which is sad. And I think we should point out that also Tate had bought a copy of her book already.
Yes, he had bought a copy already, but
so
he really appreciated the copy she gave him.
Yeah.
And it is sad that she doesn't trust him, but at the same time you can understand it because she fully gave him, I think, all the trust she had left after being abandoned. And then when he did the same thing, it takes more than a little bit of interest to get that back. Because as we've seen, it's Chase kind of feigned that for a while. And look what he did. So I can see why she would be apprehensive, even though we know that Tate is
genuine.
But I think that what Chase did even added more apprehension to her hesitation just from what Tate did. It's so it's gonna be a long road for that to come back, but you can tell that there's still love and care there between the two of them.
I agree.
And then let's see, we jump forward to 1969 again, We've got Ed and Joe doing their investigation, and they are told by Jumpin' and Tate that Kaya was actually in Greenville in the night of Chase's murder. So she's got herself an alibi. Mm-hmm. Not that that's good enough for them. Mm-hmm. But a few other townspeople also confirmed this, telling Ed and Joe that they saw her get on the 2:30 p.m. bus to Greenville on October 28th and then get off the bus in Barkley Cove at 1:16 p.m. on October 30th. They checked the bus schedule, and they see that there was a middle-of-the-night bus that she could have come back on without being seen. So this is kind of what they theorize. This is where they build their theory of their case against her, which it's just nuts to me because they keep getting information to the contrary, but they keep digging because they are just so absolutely certain that it's got to be her.
Yeah, they've got the tunnel vision going.
Right. Because as we said before, I don't think they tried to investigate anybody else.
No.
They had their eyes set on her, no matter what.
They did.
They had heard to the contrary.
Yeah. Okay, so moving back to 1968, a man in a military uniform shows up at the shack, and Kaya notices a scar on his face and realizes that it is her brother Jody. Jody tells Kaya that he served 2 years in Vietnam and will continue to be in the Army to pay for his college to become an engineer. He obviously tells Kaya that he feels guilty for abandoning her and asks her to forgive him. And he also tells her that their mom died 2 years earlier of leukemia.
Ugh.
So obviously she's devastated. She's going back through all the emotions of why her mom left and never came back. And Jody's able to tell her that the letter that Pa had burned from Ma was actually her writing to ask to come back for the kids.
Right. Because we learned that Pa had, I don't know if he had just beat her or did something that she had just, she had a mental break. Mm-hmm. And she just knew she had to get out. Like, I don't think she had the mental or emotional capacity in that moment. She wasn't even thinking of the kids. She just had a mental break, knew she had to leave, and left. And then when she came to her senses, was like, oh my God, my kids.
Yeah.
Then she writes him this letter.
Mm-hmm. And he writes back and threatens to beat the children if she ever returned. Mm-hmm. So Ma had lived with her sister, Rosemary. Was it her sister or her aunt?
I think it was her. I thought it was her sister.
Okay, yeah. Lived with her sister, Rosemary, and in grief and didn't ever interact with others. Couldn't get over, like, what happened.
Yeah, she was heartbroken over the loss of her children. And I would say back then, it's not like she could have easily gotten a lawyer and fought for her kids.
Yeah, right.
It was just sort of like, he's not going to let me have them, and he's threatening to harm them. And I think she just felt like, what could I do? And so she just kind of sunk deeper into her mental dissociation, I think.
Yeah. Jody does show Kaya that he has a large box of paintings that Ma had done of the children, including one of Tate and Kaya when they were very young. Jody actually encourages Kaya to get back together with Tate, and then Jody stays for a couple of days with her at the shack, and when he leaves, he gives her his address and phone number.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
Like a sweet scene between them, and she has like a tangible link to someone else.
Right.
Which she's never really had before.
Right. Did he come back because he saw her book?
He did see her book, but I think he says that he didn't actually know if that was really her that wrote the book. But he went back to the shack on a whim, not fully believing she would actually still be there. Right,
because he also, even being older, doesn't really remember or know how to get a hold of their other siblings.
Yeah.
Which I will mention, she publishes her books under her actual name. So after she learns to read, she finds this like old Bible that has like the family tree in it. And so then she's like reading her siblings' names and realizes like Murph is actually short for I can't even remember now.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, her siblings' names, her mom's name, her dad's name, and then her name, which is Catherine Danielle Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the name that she publishes her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget how she gets her nickname Kaya. It's just something that either she came up with or, you know, something like that when she was super, super little itty bitty.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm glad that Jody comes back and, you know, and I think he even says, you know I shouldn't have left, but it was just all I could do at the time.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be okay. I thought Dad would, you know, go easy on you or at least take care of you. They're the littlest one, you know, something he just probably assumed that Dad would mostly do right by her, but he also just felt like if he stayed, I don't know.
Right.
I would assume that he thought if he stayed, he would die.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, which is probably, I am assuming that's what Ma thought. That's what the 3 other siblings thought. Mm-hmm. And he was only 13 when he left.
Yeah.
But the others, it never says their ages or how much older than Kaya they were.
Yeah.
That was one of the other thoughts that I had. Why didn't at least one of the other siblings, like, take her with them?
Right.
You know, I mean, especially she's 6. Jody is the next closest to her, and he's 7 years older than her, so he's 13.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. Like, the oldest is Mandy, I think. And so there are 2 between her and Jody, so she had to have been at least 3 years older than Jody, at least. Yeah. Probably more than that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it's a different time for one, you know. Yeah. So maybe they just didn't think that they could support themselves out of survival and also a younger sibling. Yeah. You know, I think it was a lot of fight or flight, and they were all, you know, survive or, you know, stay. And so they just chose to save themselves rather than think of anyone else, which in those extreme conditions, you can understand.
It's hard to say what you would do in any given situation.
Right. But I wonder that it's like, you guys, one of you couldn't, come on.
I know. It would be like me leaving and not, like, taking Sis.
Yeah.
She's only 5 years younger than me, but if I was like 15 and she was 10, there's no way I could leave her.
Yeah, but not everyone is a Katniss who lives to support and supply for their younger siblings. Some people are just focused on their survival. Yeah, and I think that's
fair.
What they all kind of decided they had to do.
Yeah,
at least the mom, like like I said, it does say that she kind of had like a mental break, you know, so that's a little bit in defense of her, but it all just sucks. And then she doesn't even get the opportunity to reconnect with her mom because it's too late now.
Yeah. Super sad.
Mm-hmm, it is. Then we're jumping back to 1969. Ed and Joe are now searching Kaya's shack. They find a red wool cap that seems to match the fibers found on Chase's jacket. So, lucky break for them.
Yeah.
And then now we're really narrowing the back and forth. So now it's early 1969 rather than near the end of 1969. Because Chase died, October, 28th, 29th, 30th, something to that effect. So now we're in early 1969. A few months after Jody's visit, Tate leaves his grandfather's compass on the feather stump for Kaya, but she's still not ready to trust him yet. But he's still trying.
He's still trying.
Then we go back forward, 1969, later 1969, and we've got the lab reports back on the red cap. And it says that the fibers match. So the fibers on the red cap in her house match the red fibers found on Chase's body.
Yeah. So. Which nowadays, fiber analysis is considered junk science.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's no, like, DNA markers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these red fibers from this little, like, knitted coaster could be the same as, like, the red fibers on a t-shirt or, like, a sweater, right?
Well, and argue it's like this could get on my shirt and weave itself in and stay there for
Yeah, there's no way to, like, definitively say that the red fibers from this coaster match the red fibers over here.
Right.
Over the red fibers from that sweater. Like...
Right. Or even it's like that same red fiber / fabric could have made a hat, a sweater,
right.
this or that, or there's no way to prove that it was that specific hat. It's just the same exact type of fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, fibers not admissible in court. You cannot use it. It is a full junk science now.
Further proof that they're just shoving this theory to suit suiting all the facts to fit this theory.
Yep.
So they get the match, and then, much to their delight, a fisherman named Rodney Horn comes to the station and tells them about a confrontation that he witnessed between Kaya and Chase at Cypress Cove. So now, after hearing Rodney Horn's testimony, this is confirmation that there is a motive for Kaya to have killed Chase. They don't tell us yet
what happened,
what he witnessed, but his eyewitness testimony gives them enough to go, okay,
we're gonna bring her in.
Yep.
So just before Christmas 1969, Kaya is on her way to Jumpin's, and as she's like approaching the wharf, she notices, like, he's looking at her, and she notices, like, his demeanor is different, his posture is different, and he's essentially trying to warn her.
Yeah, he's not greeting her in a kind way like he normally does. He's kind of like real stiff and like almost like shaking his head like, don't come here.
Yeah, so she gets the hint and she turns the boat around. Yeah. But really, at this point, she's already surrounded.
Yeah.
The authorities are there and they basically arrest her for the murder.
Yep.
And then it's 1970 and her trial begins with the jury selection, and she has an attorney named Tom Milton.
Yes, Tom Milton was a retired attorney, and after hearing about Kaya being arrested, he volunteers to be her lawyer.
Yeah, he is doing this work pro bono.
And then we jump back a little bit into August 1969, so before the murder, we then get to learn what this man witnessed. This isn't testimony in the case. This is, we've jumped back in time.
We're in the scene.
So Chase sneaks up on Kaya in Cypress Cove. He calls her my marsh girl. So he still has not let go. She completely dumped him.
Yeah.
Turned him away.
And it's been more than a year.
Yeah.
At this point.
Which he takes no responsibility in the fact that he was engaged to somebody else.
And is now, at this point, married.
Yeah, at this point is married, yeah. And it doesn't matter. She spurned his affections, and she's his in his mind. So he actually attacks her. He hits her. He's, like, punching her. He's trying to assault her. But she manages to kick him in the groin and fight her way away from him. And she gets away from him. She escapes to her boat, and she sees a fisherman watching in the distance. So.
Yeah. The scene is a little more detailed and a little more graphic with the attack itself, but...
Not too much. Again, it's an uncomfortable scene, but it doesn't go too far. This is another one of those... uncomfortable, but not grotesquely described.
Yeah, because he doesn't actually succeed in what he's trying to do.
Right. But I do feel like you still feel the panic and urgency of the situation.
Yeah, it was pure panic.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for sure.
At this point, we know that Chase isn't just a dirtbag.
No.
He's not just a Lothario out here manipulating people to have sex with him. He's legitimately a predator.
Right. I mean, the fact that after all this time he still sees her as his.
Yeah, that's abuser mentality there. Like, fully abuser mentality, so...
So then we skip ahead to 1970 and we get the witness's account of this situation. So... Rodney Horn is now telling on the stand what he saw, and he testifies that he heard Kaya yelling and thought that she might be in trouble. Did he go help her? No.
Yeah, he was, like, trying to get closer.
Right.
And then he sees her, like, running on the beach.
Right.
Pulling her clothes back on.
Right. Yeah, pulling her clothes back to normal position, and he hears her yell, "Leave me alone, you bastard. You bother me again, I'll kill you."
Yeah.
But again, like I said, I don't feel like there was any urgency on his part to be like, "Oh gosh, what's going on?
Yeah.
Somebody needs my help." It's just like, "Oh, what's happening? Let me get closer."
Yeah.
These people.
I know.
I'm sorry, I will rein in my... Rein it in, Winnie, rein it in. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, after the attack, Kaya's eye is swollen shut, her eye is blacked, and her lip is split open. She has bruises and scrapes on her and on her knees. And so she goes to her reading cabin, afraid that Chase is going to come to her house looking for her. And she also doesn't want anyone to know what happened because she thinks that they will blame her.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody already thinks she's a piece of trash and was calling her a slut even before she ever was intimate with anyone. Yeah. So, of course, she would think that they would think the worst of her.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really sad. So from that moment, we go back to early 1970. Kaya's in her cell, and she begins scratching herself and pulling out strands of hair. I thought it was kind of interesting that you noted that, which it does say that in the book, but it seems almost as if she's kind of doing the only thing that, like, brings her comfort, like researching her surroundings. It's like she's looking at her strands of hair as if she would, like, inspect a feather almost, in my mind, you know.
Yeah, and it does note that this is something that the gulls do.
Yes.
Like, pull their feathers out.
Right. So it's like kind of a connection to nature that, you know, so I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. So we're back in 1969, and Kaya gets a letter from her editor inviting her to meet him in Greenville.
Yeah, this is pre-October, pre-death of Chase Andrews.
Yeah. So she doesn't fully decide what she's going to do yet. She's out in her boat. She runs into Tate. He's doing research, and he invites her onto his boat to look through his microscope to see the amoeba, because she's never really seen anything through a microscope. So this is, like, really interesting.
And seen, like, deeper into his research that he's doing and stuff.
So she's really impressed by the boat and by the microscope particularly. They have coffee, and he obviously notices her bruised eye. Yeah. He guesses that it's Chase. Mm-hmm. And then as Kaya is, like, leaving to go back home, he throws her a red wool cap.
Mm-hmm. They kind of have, like, a back and forth moment, but then eventually she ends up keeping this red wool cap that belongs to Tate.
Yeah. And as she is getting closer to her house, she sees Chase's boat entering her channel. Mm-hmm. And so she hides, obviously. And she, at this point, realizes that he's going to keep coming for her. Yeah. And this is also when she has the realization of, like, what her mom went through with her dad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now it's 1970 again. Kaya's meeting with her attorney, and he's telling her that she could take a plea deal, and if she were to plead guilty, she might get 10 years and only serve 6 if she gets good behavior, you know, but she refuses. There is a point earlier on, like, when they're choosing the jury and stuff, and, like, her lawyer's trying to say, like, hey, this town should not be her jury. These people have judged her whole life. Mm-hmm. They are not going to be impartial. And the judge is just like, no, yeah, we're doing
it here.
Trial normal. These people will be her jury. So that's why I believe her lawyer's trying to kind of get the idea of a plea deal in her head, because although this man fights for her, but
he does.
I think at this moment feels that she could, no matter how hard he fights or what the truth is, he feels that with these people as her jury, you know, she could lose. So the reality would be you know, the best, if she were to lose, like, it would be better for her to make a plea deal and she would only get 10 years rather than, I think the death penalty is on the table. So, you know, he's like, 10 years, you could serve 6, but she refuses. She's like, no, I'm not going to jail for this guy's murder. I'm not pleading to anything.
Yeah, and I think at one point she says she's more afraid of being locked up in jail forever than death.
Yep, yeah.
Which makes sense.
Especially for just, the way she's lived her life.
Yeah, she's never been contained.
No. And then she kind of bonds with the courtroom cat, whose name is Sunday Justice, which is adorable. Mm-hmm. And he comes into her cell and he sleeps with her, and he's a real comfort to her. Yeah. Tate comes to visit her several times, but she refuses to see him up until the morning after she meets the cat. And then she finally relents and, like, lets him come back and see her. And he tells her that he's been feeding her gulls. We didn't really mention it, but she, like, has a big connection with her gulls. There's one in particular she calls Big Red, you know, and it's really sweet, like, how she cares for them and stuff. But he tells her that he's been feeding the gulls at the beach, and she tells him to just forget about her. She just, I don't think she's, like, fully forgiven him, but also she's just like, stop wasting your time on me. Like, I don't know if she feels like she's doomed, but she's just trying to push anyone away at this point. Like, this is probably one of her lowest points, and she's had some pretty dang low points, but at this moment she's just like, I don't want anyone, just go. But he tells her that he will never forget about her and that he will be sitting behind her in the courtroom.
Yep. And we are still in 1970. Jumpin', Mabel, and Tate all sit behind her in court. At this point, the coroner is testifying, and Tom is cross-examining Dr. Cohn and admits that there is no evidence that Chase was actually pushed, and that the fibers could have gotten on Chase's jacket at any time in the years that Kaya and Chase were involved, and that there is no evidence of Kaya being present at the fire tower when Chase died.
Of course, before this, the prosecution is, like, putting words in his mouth and, like, so isn't it possible? Isn't it possible? Isn't it possible? But Kaya's lawyer is good at his job, and he basically gets the doctor to admit, like, could have, but there's no evidence
there's
of that.
Yeah, he made it like there's no marks on the front of Chase's body from a push or a kick or a shove or anything like that.
Right. Evidence shows he fell.
Yeah.
And the fiber evidence, like Maddie was saying, like, is not anything that is really proving anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're back in 1969, shortly before Kaya, because we hear earlier her alibi that she's in Greenville, so this is like shortly before she goes to Greenville. So obviously she does decide to meet with her publisher, but she goes to Jumpin's Wharf to get the bus schedule. She tells him about her trip to Greenville to meet with her publisher. Jumpin sees the fading bruises on her face, and he asks if Chase beat her. Of course, Kaya, she admits it to him, but she begs him not to tell anyone because she knows that people will blame her. They would make the assumption that she did it. Yeah. And so Jumpin agrees.
He understands. Okay, so back to the trial. Sheriff Ed is on the stand, and Tom basically points out they're talking about, like, there being no evidence. And Tom points out that if Chase arrived at low tide, the rising tide overnight would have washed away any footprints. And Tom also shows that the months before Chase's death, the sheriff had actually sent a letter to the U.S. Forest Service about how dangerous the fire tower was and to permanently seal the gates so no one could climb up there. Right. So, Tom is establishing reasonable doubt, which is what you're supposed to do as the defense attorney. Right.
He's doing his job and putting a big shining light on all their BS.
Yeah, which I did have a little bit of a miff with the way that the questioning went in the trial.
It was all leading questioning, all leading the witness, all. It
was so crazy. There was so much, like, as an attorney, you cannot just make statements. Everything has to be a question. The only time you can ever just make statements is your opening and closing statement. Right. Everything else, you're questioning your witness, and you can't be leading them to anything. You can't be doing, like, your question has to be a question.
Yeah.
And
it can't be, wouldn't it be possible for her to have driven her boat at night? Well, anything's possible, Jack, but...
Yeah, and I think, you know, those types of questions, obviously, the prosecution is going to ask, but there were multiple times when the prosecutor literally is just making statements, and I'm like, oh my God, this would not happen in a real court of law.
No, that part really, yeah, I was like, it's just,
it was, that part was rough.
Yeah.
That part was rough.
I was just like, what judge is going to sit here and allow this to happen? But I guess this can, you could say that the judge is being biased and allowing this bullcrap to go, but I really feel like this is just maybe a misunderstanding of how a courtroom works.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. I think a lot of people who aren't, like, in that space, especially if all you really know of the courtroom is from Law and Order.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot in shows like that. And, you know, when you don't know, like, I worked in the court system for, like, 7 years and went to law school, so I'm, like, extra critical of it. But not everyone knows that, you know, you can only ask questions as an attorney. Like, you can't just give broad statements in the middle of...
put a question at the, you know, make it sound like a question. But also... even if you try and say, like, oh, well, she's using it as an example of the town's prejudice, also, Tom is clearly a really good lawyer, so I feel like Tom would be objecting to all of it.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
he would be objecting to leading the witness. He would be objection, where's the question?
Right.
Like, those are real objections.
Right. And what is it called when someone's, like, speculating? Like,
calls for speculation.
Yeah. Or just, like,
there's like hearsay where you can't say that someone else said something.
Yes, like certain things like that.
Yes.
It's just like, these aren't factual things. These are just supposed whatevers. Like I said, I could suppose it was possible for me to be walking down the road 5 minutes ago, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
You could suppose anything.
Yeah.
But
there would have been so many instances where a defense attorney in Tom's position would have just been like, objection, objection.
But then that would have been the whole thing. So I really do think she was just trying to prove how hard the prosecutor and the sheriff were trying to pin it on her. I really think that was really the only motive for this, like, wild court stuff.
It had to have been.
But I even though it was outrageously inaccurate, I still found it compelling. So
yeah, it just gave the defense a chance to, like, poke holes in all of the theory.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the purpose of serving. It's just not really super accurate.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So
back in 1969, now Kaya's going to Greenville on the bus. Everyone in town sees her get on the bus. When she returns 2 days later, she goes home. When she tells Jumpin that she's back the next day, he tells her about Chase's death and that Chase's wife, Pearl, is claiming the missing shell necklace proves that he was murdered. So he's trying to just give her a heads up, like, I think they're going to try and pin this on you.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
So back to the trial, the prosecutor calls the two bus drivers as witnesses. The driver, Larry Price, testifies that on the 11:50 p.m. bus from Greenville, it's probably supposed to be Greenville, to Barkley Cove, there was a tall, thin man that could have been Kaya in disguise. The other driver of the 2:30 a.m. bus back to Greenville testifies that there was a tall woman with curly gray hair on the bus that may have also been Kaya in a different disguise. But Tom is basically undermining that with his cross, like, yeah.
You can't go, well, don't they look like they could have been her?
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
Yeah, basically they're like,
Did you see her put on a disguise? No. Okay, then you can't say that was her.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And you got a good look at both of these people's faces when they got on your bus, and there was nothing about them that made you believe it was Kaya until it was suggested to you, basically, is what it says.
Right.
Or
Until you were led to this conclusion.
Exactly. That's basically what he
by a horrible lawyer that shouldn't even be able to tell you this in the first place.
Exactly. So, and at this point, Jody is at the trial and sits with Tate, Jumpin, and Mabel in the courtroom. The prosecutor calls Hal Miller, who testifies that he saw her in her boat around 1:45 going towards the fire tower, and that's where the prosecution rests. So the defense calls a number of witnesses, including Robert Foster, her editor, and the sheriff. Basically calls the sheriff back to the stand for the timeline, basically suggesting that there would not have been enough time for Kaya to have gotten off the bus that had been running late, gotten to the fire tower, committed the murder, gotten back to make the bus in time to get back to Greenville.
Right.
He's saying the timeline is too tight. It is not, there's not enough.
Right. And the sheriff messes himself up because he says, well, she had to have done this, she could have done this, and then when the lawyer pokes holes in it, he's like, well, maybe she could have done this. He was like, no, but you laid your whole... He says, oh, she could have gone on foot. He's like, except for you've laid your whole arguments on the fact that people saw her on a boat in the water. So which is it?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So it just shows how reaching they are. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Tom calls his final witness, the shrimper, Tim O'Neill, who owns the boat of the other shrimper, Hal Miller. And he basically says that it would have been impossible to identify Kaya and her boat at that night because there was no moon, she had no boat lights, and it would have been impossible for the other two who had testified to have seen her and identified her as her.
Right. They try to say, well, I know her boat, I know her shape of her, you know, outline, her shadow, and Tim O'Neill's like, that you couldn't have.
Yeah, that's the most common boat on the water right now.
Right. And you wouldn't have been able to see jack squat because there was no moon. So
yeah.
He didn't say this, but it's like if you were seeing shapes, then you're lying. You're full of baloney.
You're full of it.
Yep. So Tate, Scupper, Jody, Jumpin, Mabel, Robert Foster, they all are awaiting the verdict. And Kaya's back in her cell. She's actually more worried about never seeing the marsh again than the death penalty. So yeah. But thankfully, Kaya is found not guilty.
Oh.
As we said, there was plenty of reasonable doubt, which is all the defense lawyer has to do.
That's all you need.
You don't have to be able to say they're guilty, it's do you have reasonable doubt or are you absolutely sure that this person did it?
Yeah, it's the highest burden of proof.
Right. So Kaya is clearly overjoyed to see her marsh and her gulls and her shack again. She runs to feed the gulls immediately.
Yeah.
When she returns, Jody suggests that he stay with her for a little while and asks her not to draw further away from people, but Kaya makes it pretty clear that she feels like everyone in her world, including the townspeople, have abandoned and rejected her, and the verdict hasn't changed her mind on that. Obviously the people in the town found her not guilty, but that doesn't change the fact that she feels completely abandoned
and isolated
by them. And her lawyer made a really good closing argument, basically you've let your prejudices put this woman on trial, not the facts. It was really, really good. But after making her a chicken pie, Jody goes ahead and leaves her alone as she desires. And then the next day, Kaya plans to spend the day collecting things, but she also hopes to see Tate and invite him to dinner. But at the moment, Kaya, I think she gets in her boat to go see Tate, but then she sees that the sheriff and 2 deputies are at his residence or at his research boat, and she sees him hang his head, looking defeated, and he gets on board the boat with the sheriff and the 2 deputies, and they speed away. So
yeah, she's not really sure what's going on,
right? But she realizes how much she has always depended on Tate's presence in the marsh, and kind of realizes that she wants him back in her life.
Yeah. So eventually Kaya finds out that what had happened is the deputies had gone to inform Tate that his dad had passed away. And after the funeral, Tate finds a feather in his boat and he knows it's from Kaya. So he goes to Kaya's and they essentially declare their love for each other. And he moves into the shack and asks her to marry him. And she says that they are already married like the geese.
Yeah.
Which is very cute.
It was cute.
And that's enough for Tate.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
Yeah. Great.
I accept it.
Yep.
So a few years pass, and Tate tells Kaya when Jumpin dies, which is really sad for her because he was essentially like a father figure, and there's a scene of her and Mabel like embracing all of that. So
because when her book was published and she gave a copy to Jumpin, he put it in the window of his shop, and I think the book like mentions like a proud father, and I just think, oh, that's so sweet.
So sweet. Let's see, where are we? We're just going, like, the years pass. Kaya and Tate, like, live their life. Mm-hmm. They're happy together. Jody has a family, and they visit pretty often, so they still have, like, a relationship. And Tate works at the lab, and Kaya continues writing her books. They don't ever have any children, even though they wished for some at one point.
Yeah.
And then one day when Kaya doesn't return, Tate goes looking for her, and he finds her boat. And she has had a heart attack and passed away. She was 64, which is really young.
It is. And I was kind of surprised. I was just like, wait, what?
I know.
What?
It was kind of like, it was kind of shocking.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't expect her to, like, die.
I didn't either. I didn't expect her to die in the book.
It was, like, kind of a bum moment.
Yeah.
Like, for Tate, like, he's lost his mom, his sister, his dad, and now his wife.
Yeah, because we didn't mention it, but like Tate felt responsible for his mom and sister's death because he thinks that his mom was heading back to town to like get a bike that he really wanted for his birthday or something. And it's not like he was a brat about it and was like, give me that bike. It just he just knows his mom and figures that she was trying to do a sweet thing for him for his birthday, and he kind of felt responsible. And and then he ends up finding Kaya dead, which is really sad. And 64, so young.
Yeah.
But but the night of her burial, Tate finds a secret compartment in the floor by the fireplace. I can't remember if he's just kind of like hanging by the fireplace and kind of notices.
Yeah, because it remarks like that Kaya had always kept the firewood stacked there.
Yes.
Even in the summer. Yeah. But it had gotten low, obviously, because he was clearly not paying attention.
Right.
During this grief-stricken period.
Right. And so he notices this little spot, and inside he finds a box with poems and realizes that Kaya is... We forgot to mention earlier, but there is this author author.
She's, like a poet.
A poet that is Kaya's favorite, or that she kind of recites her poems a lot, and her name is Amanda Hamilton. So you kind of get these poems sprinkled throughout the book.
Yeah.
And they seem to match
what she's going
through and feeling. So he finds that Kaya is actually Amanda Hamilton, and that she had written under that pseudonym for years. And there was a poem called The Firefly, which describes Chase Andrews' death. I think I also forgot to mention earlier that Kaya had a moment where she was watching the fireflies and noticed that there were female fireflies that would attract... She would flash her light in a way to attract one male and mate with them, and then there was... After that, then she would flash her light in a different way to attract another male, and she would kill and eat him.
Yeah.
So, we know she was inspired by nature. So, it kind of goes along with that observation in a way. So, he finds that, and then he also finds Chase Andrews' shell necklace. So, he burns all the poems and the rawhide cord that the necklace was, or that the shell was on, and then he just puts the shell on the beach or in the water with the other shells and just
lets it wash away.
Lets it wash away.
Yeah.
And then he just goes back home and watches the fireflies in the dark.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
That's it. Yep.
Did you think she had done it?
Yeah, I knew she did it. The moment with the hat,
Yeah.
I think, was a little element of attempted misdirection to make you think maybe Tate had done it because he had seen her eye.
Yes.
But
because I never suspected that, and the only people that could have been suspects that knew were Jumpin' and Tate, and I didn't believe for a second that Jumpin' went and murdered anybody.
No. Yeah, for a second I was like, I'm pretty sure that Kaya did it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was Tate.
Right.
But
right. So even though we've chastised the police for doing a shoddy investigation and pulling theories out their butt, they were right. She did murder him, but they still were wrong in the way that they went about it.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, they didn't have any. Clearly, there was no evidence that would have definitively linked her. But
so I guess she really did disguise herself, which is almost really funny for me to picture her disguised, and
it just seems so ridiculous.
Yeah,
honestly, but
yeah.
I mean, listen, he deserved it.
We're not feeling sorry for Chase Andrews out here.
Dude was the worst.
Yeah.
He certainly would have kept coming, and eventually that kind of shit only escalates.
Yeah. She basically, I guess I didn't say, but she basically lured him to that fire tower and then
just pushed him.
I don't even think she pushed him. I think she opened the grate and then kind of stood in a place where he would have to come to her, and he fell.
He just fell, yeah.
I don't even know if she pushed him. I think that she just left the door open for him to fall through.
Or maybe she just tripped him.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, but either way. She lured him just like one of those female fireflies and let him fall to his death. But he was a piece of poop. So.
Yeah. It would have just escalated and gotten worse, and she knew it.
Right. We don't condone murder, but this is fiction, so.
Listen.
We're not sad for Chase Andrews.
I probably wouldn't be sad if this was a true story, let's be honest. Some people suck, and they get their comeuppance, and we don't have to feel bad about it.
We're just saying the book ended in a satisfying way for the reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
okay.
But we discussed it, but so the themes and motifs of the book are obviously child neglect and abandonment, partner, spousal, domestic manipulation and abuse, some vigilante justice. Definitely a topic for a good discussion / debate, and then just nature.
Yep.
And there was really a lot more that we could discuss, and we've already talked for a really long time, but there's a lot to this book, really.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. So I guess let's do our final thoughts.
Alrighty. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. I really actually liked this book, which was a surprise to me. I would say that I would give this a 4 out of 5. Even with the difficult things, it's still something that I feel like I could go back and read more than once and still enjoy it. And kind of like we discussed, 1 is you didn't finish it. I would say 0 absolutely hated it. 1 is you didn't even finish it. 2, you didn't like it. 3, you liked it. 4, you really liked it. 5, you loved it. So I would say I really liked this book. Even with some of the dumb issues, I understand that they're there to kind of either make a point or move the plot forward or whatever, or just were oversights by the author. But yeah, I love the descriptions of nature and Kaya's respect for it. I loved her wonder for the world and her perseverance and ability to survive, as seemingly unrealistic as it could have been sometimes. And then I really liked her complicated emotions towards people, because and I can't remember the specific conversation with Jody, but she's just, I just remember her saying something about being angry or something. I can't, do you know what I'm talking about? But it was, I don't know, this book moved me and broke my heart in ways that I can't explain. I found it sad, but also really lovely at times. The way that loneliness is described really cut me super deeply. I definitely cried several times throughout the book. I don't know. And that's why it surprised me, because generally I don't like things that make me super upset. But there was something cathartic about it. I don't know, but I just, for some reason, it wasn't enough to make me hate it, I guess. But
Yeah.
I love what Kaya ended up becoming, becoming this amazing author, doing the thing that she loved. And obviously, like, the trial stuff was crazy with a lot of conjecture and Lady and the Witnesses, but I found it very compelling nonetheless, and I just really liked it. But and just the way that it talked about loneliness and like described and depicted loneliness, like, I don't know, it really moved me. There was, I don't know, like, just the way they talked about loneliness, like being vast and empty, and I don't know, it just struck a chord in me that I can't fully explain.
Yeah.
But it did.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have actually rated this on Goodreads yet, but I would probably go with 3 stars. There was a lot that I really did like about the book. I liked this, obviously the science and nature elements were written really well. Obviously, Delia Owens herself is a scientist, I think, like a zoologist and a biologist, and she wrote a lot of nonfiction. So, obviously, she writes it accurately and believably, so I thought that was really well done. I do think generally the prose was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Particularly when Kaya's, like, just in the marsh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like that is really where the book is super successful.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read any reviews before I read the book itself. I don't like to read reviews of books before I read them, because I want to make up my own mind and not worry that I'm being influenced.
Right.
So, but I did read some reviews afterwards, generally in research, and there are a lot of people that drag her for the Southern vernacular she uses in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea about Southern vernacular, so we can't really comment on that.
Yeah.
I have no idea the differences between different Southern accents or vernacular or anything, so
Right.
I have no idea.
Right.
There's also complaints about the layout, the towns that are highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the layout of North Carolina,
Right.
so also,
Right.
I don't know.
To me, I feel like you kind of have to believe that, like, this is the real world, but also, like, a fictional pocket.
It's a fictional story.
Of the real world.
Yeah, exactly. I think the reason I would give this 3 and not more than that is the idea that a 6-year-old is essentially living and managing by herself. I know that her pa didn't actually leave until she was 10, but her whole family, aside from her drunkard father, leaves when she's 6. And he's, like, in and out for those 4 years, so she's in charge of buying shit for the house, cooking, taking care of herself, whatever. You have to accept that over and over as you get through the story. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was just such a reach. Mm-hmm. And I do think I agree that the discussion of loneliness is really accurate. Mm-hmm. But I also kind of felt like we didn't get much more emotional impact of all of these people continually leaving her.
Yeah.
I feel like she's probably would have felt a lot more than just loneliness.
Yeah.
And I felt like the emotional aspect, the trauma, like the only glimpse of her true trauma from being completely abandoned by everyone is in her refusal to forgive Tate.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would manifest much more severely.
Yeah. You saying that actually reminds me of, like, the scene where he did kind of come back in, like, that, not July, but, like, shortly after he did actually come back.
Yeah.
But he saw her from a distance, and he saw her hiding from someone, and, like, saw her almost for the first time, like, behaving almost in, like, in a feral animal sort of way.
Yeah.
And that's when he was like, she can't fit in the real world. And that's when he kind of, like, had that cowardice moment of, like, yeah, I gotta go, and I can't even say anything to her. Like, I do think that her behavior like that is definitely a reflection of things that happened to her. But I do agree, or I do understand what you're saying, where there could have been more exploration of the other impacts, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like more time could have been spent a little more judiciously in her emotional state as opposed to the coming of age, kind of. Because it does seem like in those years between like age 10 and age 19, a lot, we're moving at a pretty swift clip. Generally, like she's 10 and then she's 14 and she's learning to read and then she's getting her period and then she's losing Tate and then she's 19. Yeah. And we could have spent a little more time in those years. Yes. Yeah. On her like emotional state. Yeah. I feel like that would have added a lot to the story, but overall, I felt like the book was good. I enjoyed reading it, you know. I would reread it. Yeah. But, you know. Yeah. Hey, and that's okay. I didn't watch the film yet, but we will inevitably do another film episode. Yes. To kind of bookmark the second set of episodes we're doing, so... Yep. I will watch it before we do that. Yep. I did see it. I liked it. I cried a lot during it. But there was a scene, especially in the end, that I found to be kind of like a beautiful addition. But that's all I'll really say until you've seen it. But yeah, I liked the film. I think that they adapted it well. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And that's the conclusion of our coverage of this one. Our next book is going to be Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Ooey. So, please rate, review, subscribe, do the things and the stuff. Yep. Send along your book recs and let us know if you've read any of the books we've covered. What did you think of Where the Crawdads Sing and all that? Have you seen the movie? What, just share your thoughts with us. Yeah. All of our tunes and artwork is a collaboration of the WRB crew. Whoop, whoop. Yep, we do it all. We edit, we photograph, we create art, we made the music. We did the whole shebang, the two of us. That's correct. Ain't nobody else on this team but us. Not a soul. But until next time, go touch grass and read books. Okay, goodbye. Bye.